Good evening. If you would like to join us, we always precede our council meeting with a word of prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Anybody like to volunteer on the prayer? Since Miss Whitmore is no longer among us.
Well, she's just not here tonight.
Mr. Jones, would you like to? Terry Kimbrough, would you like to lead us in prayer?
And you're in the front row.
Thank you, sir.
Gracious God, we praise you that you allow us to live in such a place as Conway, Arkansas. We're often reminded how blessed we are, the resources that we have, the forward-thinking leaders, council members, forum court members. I thank you that we're able to voice our opinions, deliberate on what's best, come to a conclusion that hopefully not only is good for the city, but that honors you as well. I pray that we will continue to pledge our allegiance to the United States of America. Recognize you as the God of the universe. In the name of Christ, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. President Kimbrough, thank you so much for that. We always appreciate you having a chance to attend our meetings with us, and we appreciate you standing in as bullpen for the prayer tonight. Otherwise, it was going to be Reverend Jones here. We're glad you're here, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
I will call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Hawkins?
Here.
Mr. Grimes?
Here.
Mr. Pruitt?
Here.
Miss Mel?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Here.
Miss Smith?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
You should have received copies of the March 22nd, excuse me a second.
And Miss Isby?
Miss Isby.
Mrs. B.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the former Mrs. Whitmore, but the newly married Miss Sheila Isby.
Hey.
Literally straight off the plane from
Delta
our
must have been
honeymoon,
late.
right here to City of Conway City Council business meeting. So thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you. And congratulations.
Congratulations, Sheila.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any discussion, additions, corrections? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. I feel like the old Ed Sullivan tonight and say we've got a really big shoe for you tonight. We have a long council meeting with a lot of substantive issues. I'm going to ask that we move through them as briskly as we can. The first two items, though, are public hearings. We will conduct a public hearing and allow for public input on these topics. And we do have ordinances after the close of each of those public hearings. We have ordinances to deal with the issue of the public hearing itself. Our first public hearing and ordinance is a public hearing to discuss the closing of a portion of street right-of-way located in the northwest portion of the Round Mountain Subdivision. This is a closing of the street right-of-way that became possible because a new alignment for a second exit off the top of Round Mountain and those subdivisions is being built, being undertaken by the county. And we appreciate the county judge and the quorum court's leadership on this. It's a huge safety benefit to the residents of the Round Mountain area, Crest Haven subdivision and such. We appreciate that, but because that's taken a new right-of-way than what was originally platted, there is a residual portion of right-of-way that is no longer needed. This is an effort to close that. Public hearings and public input is required. So that being said, I will declare the public hearing is open and ask anybody who would like to speak for or against this street right-of-way closing to step forward to the microphone. As with any opportunity to speak in front of the City Council tonight, would you please identify yourself and where you live for the record? So I will declare the public hearing is open and ask anybody who would like to speak for or against this street right-of-way closing to address the council at this time. Mr. Enzi.
On this, my name is David Hensey. I live at 2665 Hartvale, Crest Haven Subdivision. I was part of the group that helped negotiate all the right-of-way and getting this road, this new road, going forward. So a lot of help from the tab and Baker and a lot of other folks too. I guess I would ask if anybody had any questions about why we're doing this. I'm more than happy to try to answer those. Of course, I am in favor of closing the right of way as part of the agreement negotiations of acquiring the right of way for the new route of the road off of Round Mountain. So
I think it's pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
so.
Know what we got.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Enzi. Is there anybody else who would like to speak for or against this? If not, I will declare the public hearing is closed. We will bring the issue back in front of the city council. We do have an ordinance closing the street right-of-way located in this northwestern portion of Round Mountain subdivision. By state law, when you close a right-of-way, the property goes to the landowners on either side of that right-of-way. Those landowners are the same person. It's Mrs. Engelkiss, and she would get this. This would basically close an intrusion of remnant right-of-way into her property. She would take over all of it, in essence.
I make a motion to waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second to waive the 3 readings and bring this ordinance forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the reading, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0, and the
Move for
ordinance is
adoption
before
of
us.
the ordinance.
Motion and second for adoption of this ordinance. For the record, we might see if we can get a proposed name. We've asked the county judge if he would like to have a proposed name for his road. That will be formally brought to the city council at some point. But Mr. Ledbetter, you know what the county judge would like to see this road named as, and
Yes, MP Trail.
MP Trail. So that will be formally brought to us at some point for our adoption. Not at this time, but just want to give you a heads up on that and get that on the record. MP Trail. And we'll hear the whole story at that time. Very good. Any other discussion? This will be ordinance O-1623.
23.
If there's no other discussion, Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter? Yes. Ms. Bell? Mr. Pruitt? Aye.
That passes 8-0, and Miss Isby becomes part of the formal record of the City of Conway forever and ever, amen. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a public hearing to discuss a mosquito abatement control program for the City of Conway. This is a situation where this is not actually required by state law, but we wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to weigh in on whether we want to pursue a mosquito abatement program with the rise of the Zika virus this year and in previous years, West Nile virus. There's been a growing concern for that, and the mosquito populations and problems. Other Arkansas cities do pursue mosquito abatement programs. There are others who feel like perhaps they would rather not be intruded upon in their private lives by any kind of aerial application, chemicals, whatever. So we wanted to make sure that we at least put this issue out for public comment. That being said, I will declare the public hearing is open and ask anybody who would like to speak for or against a mosquito abatement control program for the City of Conway to speak at this time. Chief, you are recognized.
There are a few things in place that we have done within our office, and Mr. Cross's office, Grant, Mr. Cross's office will address the fire storage portion of that tonight, which is going to help us tremendously. As far as our office, we met with Mr. Cross's office on our procedures. Normally, we give folks about 7 days if we have an issue with a swimming pool, no longer in use, or a water fountain, or something like that, where mosquitoes are not. Normally, we give them 7 days. After visiting Mr. Cross's office, we'll discuss go 24 hours. Should we decide to move forward with this program? Because it seems to be that CDC is ramped up a little bit, so we're gonna try to take it a little more seriously in our offices. We had about 12 calls concerning the mosquitoes in the last month. I expect family to us, people are starting to get interested in and concerned. We have been in contact with UCA, CDC, and Hendricks. CDC would like to partner with us, and there's really not a whole lot of information out there on how they're going to do all the testing and all that. Whereas they could help us. I mean, they were very interested in it, but at this time, it doesn't look like that to work with us on that. But they do want to know what's coming. Then some and see. So currently, federal grants available at this time. We do not have the information compiled at this time that we need to apply for that. That would take traps, figuring out what kind of mosquitoes we have, and if we have the West Nile, malaria. Look at doing it ourselves with the land mass in Conway, with the number of waterways we have in the city, as well as the drainage ditches we have in the city. More than we could. Did give you two bids from two different companies. Brought with me tonight, let me make sure, Chris News and Tim Nelson are here with Vector Control tonight. They can answer any question you have concerning the environment, concerning the cost, concerning exactly what they do, concerning the testing. One thing that Vector does offer that I was quite impressed with, if the city or Miss Mel, if you or your husband decides to repeat your vows, or Miss Whitmore, I'm sorry, if you had decided to have your wedding outside, since they have a contract with the city, they would come to your house and spray free. No charge, they would set up the traps.
We had a party or whatever.
So that was pretty nice. So anyway, you gentlemen will be able to answer any questions you have. Interesting, I've been before this group many times for a lot of different things, fire, rescue, all sorts of stuff.
Never a skeeter.
Nonetheless, it is one of the biggest killers of humankind every year in the world, is mosquitoes, so.
And there's a lot of needs to go with mosquitoes. I said we're going to have 12 complaints from people. There's a difference in complaints and concerns, and we get a number of calls and concerns about, what we're going to do as a city. So I want to make that distinction. Are interested in it, I'll pay.
So how do you vet out if someone is having an event? What if,
That's a good question.
I'm having like 5 people over and there's mosquitoes out
Yeah.
back and I call this company to
Tell you
come
what, that's a
in.
good question. Why don't we ask that question when we deal with the ordinance portion of this? Let's let the public hearing
Is the
portion
mic
continue.
on?
Yes, no.
Try it then.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
I just got a note from someone that said it was not on.
We can ask a lot of questions when we get down to the ordinance portion of this.
Okay.
And whether we want to pursue it. Right now, let's just have the public hearing. Let's let the public comment.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public like to talk about the need for this, or the need or the reasons why we shouldn't do this? Okay, very good. We'll call the public hearing closed. And we do have an ordinance that appropriates whatever funds we determine is necessary for this, and an agreement to enter into for a mosquito control abatement program.
Can we hear from the companies?
Absolutely. Do we have Vector represented? And did we have the other firm represented as well?
Tim?
Okay, very good. Hey, actually, both of y'all could stand up and,
Well, he's with us. We're all one firm.
okay, there is, the second firm did not show up? Very good. Well, yes, please introduce yourselves and your firm.
Sure. My name's Chris New, and I'm with Vector Disease Control. I have with us Brett Killingsworth. He's in sales, and then Tim Nelson is with us as well. He is in new business development. He helps set up a lot of our new contracts around the country, and also helps manage our accounts in Northeast Arkansas and Blytheville and Osceola. We're a little bit about us. We're a national mosquito control contractor based in Little Rock. We have a large majority of our work is done in Arkansas. A lot of it's all through the through the Arkansas Delta all the way from, Lake Village and Dumas, Arkansas, up to Jonesboro, Blytheville, West Memphis, and several other smaller towns throughout Arkansas. But we can provide mosquito control for a lot of different size accounts, all the way from Lake Village to the city of Chicago, Key West, Florida. We also currently have a standing contract with the CDC regarding Zika virus to do their Zika work in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Guam and the Marshall Islands. We actually have teams that are deployed to those areas right now.
And CDC, that's Centers for
Centers for
Disease
Disease
Control. That's the
Control.
federal agency.
Correct.
That has nationwide concern.
Yes, sir.
And has upped the concern about the particular Zika virus.
Right, right,
This year.
and that's the thing. We're getting a lot of calls and inquiries about Zika since the first of the year. Just a little background. I won't take too much time, but it's been around a long time, since the 40s. It's been relatively mild as far as its symptoms, and that's why there hadn't been a lot known about it. About 1 in 5 people would even know they contracted the virus, but here recently in the past year, it's starting to be linked to some birth defects in several cases in South America, and then also it's now appears to be sexually transmitted, at least from men to women. There's been several cases of the men that went to South America, the Caribbean, and came back home, and their wife has ended up with Zika, and they never left the country. So that's why it's a little concerning. But to other people, women who are not pregnant, the symptoms are relatively mild, somewhat flu-like. The fear is, and right now there is no current locally acquired cases in the U.S. All the cases that we have, 350, I think, are imported. That means someone's traveled to an area where it's endemic. They get bitten and come home and start to develop symptoms, and they have it. The fear is once they come home, one of our local mosquitoes, container breeding mosquitoes, Aedes albopictus, could bite one of these infected people, and then it's in the mosquito population, and then it could bite you, or it could bite someone else, and then the virus really replicate that way. It's different than West Nile. West Nile has a animal reservoir host, birds, and that's why it stays in the bird population. Zika is not that way. It is transmitted between human to mosquito to human. So the mosquito right now that's carrying it, Aedes aegypti, you don't have any of those in Conway, but you do have Aedes albopictus, which is a very similar species of mosquito, and it breeds in artificial containers, flower pots, tires, clogged up gutters, small swimming pools, abandoned swimming pools. So it breeds right around people's homes, and one of the ways to go about it is, public education. That's one part of a full IPM mosquito program. That you need an educated public to know when they walk out to their yard to say, that pot over there, that bird bath is collecting water. We need to dump it out every 7 days. You also need a mosquito control program in place to, do service requests. That's what he was talking about, Bart was talking about earlier, where people may have a certain event or any kind of backyard function, ball games, festivals around town that, you can go and spray different barrier treatments or stuff like that to help bring down that mosquito population. One other thing I wanted to add was something we hear sometimes, a lot of the concern about pesticides. We are spraying pesticides in the open environment, and, whenever that happens, there can be cause for concern. One of the things we do in mosquito control is we do what we call a fully integrated approach to killing mosquitoes. We don't just schedule our spray trucks to go out on Tuesdays and Thursdays every night, whether or not there's a mosquito problem or not. We trap for mosquitoes. We would set traps all throughout the town. Depending on those trap numbers, that's where we decide to go and spray. So we want to actually verify there's a mosquito problem in that area when we go spray. Also, all the pesticides that we use are regulated and have been tested thoroughly by the EPA. They fall under FIFRA guidelines. And in mosquito control, the doses that we spray are so low compared to a lot of other pesticide applications in agriculture. We may spray 1 ounce per acre or less of product. That an ounce is, about what you would have in a shot glass of product for the entire acre. And then even in that ounce, only about 4% of that ounce is actually active ingredient. So these products are designed to go out at very, very low rates, at very, very small droplet sizes to affect basically only the flying mosquito. You almost cannot find this product in the environment, the next day, either, on the ground or through leaching into the soil or in a water body. It's just, you won't find it. It's designed strictly to affect that adult mosquito and not any other non-target insects or animals, for that matter. One of the main products we use is permethrin. That's a common synthetic pyrethroid that's even used in a lot of flea and tick shampoos and dog collars. So you're not going to get really any effect, like I said, on animals or non-targets or anything like that. Larviciding is another aspect of our program, and probably one of the most effective ways to kill mosquitoes is actually treating them in the water. That's when they're most vulnerable. And they're contained, you can get to them easier. So we use several different types of products depending on the treatment area, but a lot of it's a biologically occurring pesticide, BTI. It's a naturally occurring pesticide that's designed only to affect mosquito larvae. It doesn't affect any kind of other fish or any other animals like that. So, we want to use all aspects, all tools that we have to go after mosquitoes in all stages of their life cycle and not just rely strictly on adulticide spraying. So.
Very good. And I will say that in my years as a mayor, now this is my 18th year, that y'all have been a participant at Arkansas Municipal League.
Yes, sir.
Conventions for years. You advertise frequently in the City and Town magazine, and a significant portion of the population of the state of Arkansas would fall under your contracts, actually. So you are a known factor in the state. This is not something for either fly-by-night or experimental in nature, as you relate. Council, is there any questions? I know, Wes, you had a question about what the chief was saying.
Yeah, in regards to, I don't know if you heard it, so we have 60-something thousand people here. What if half those people one night say, oh, I want to have a party on Saturday night, and they all need someone to come spray? Like, how do you guys say, okay, you have how do you decide? I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, we'll schedule, as people call into our number, we schedule, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Tim may have.
Are you guys ready for that? Like,
If
every
we
weekend.
come in here and set up a contract and start doing mosquito control here, if 2 people call me, a man and a woman wants to have coffee on their porch every morning and mosquitoes are bothering them, we will go spray.
Okay.
If 15 people call and say they're having a party, we will go spray. If it becomes a problem, we'll address it at that point. Otherwise, we will spray. It doesn't matter if, the way we operate, for instance, I had a terminally ill man in Blytheville, Arkansas. Asked me to spray. He enjoyed drinking his sweet tea in his backyard. I did exactly what he asked till the day he passed and took care of those people, and that's what we're here for, is to make sure we take care of people. So it doesn't matter how many call or what. We'll just be sure to take care of it. This gives us an opportunity, too, when we're called for these, we try to get out and do surveillance in that area, find problems, take care of that ahead of time, address it before the parties, not just come out and spray. If you're having food out, we work closely with whoever and, spray prior to having food out, etc. We are definitely very safe to the environment. We use very safe chemicals like Chris was talking about. The very last thing in this business is to use that adulticide. IPM, we want to do all the larvicide and surveillance, et cetera, work closely with, the city and areas that we may find that's got problem areas, that's building up trash, causing breeding sites, et cetera. And then inevitably, we're gonna have to spray some adulticide to take care of some things, but we wanna do the least amount of that as we have to. But the service request, we just take care of it, simple as that. And I will be the guy that sets up the program here.
Okay,
Very good.
fair enough.
Any other questions? Very good. Thank you. And you might stay handy in case there are other questions arise.
Thank you, sure.
Council, we have an ordinance. Do you want to get into this mosquito program? Do you not? We're certainly getting into the season. What do you wish to do?
It doesn't bother me, Mr. Mayor, because I used to chase the mosquito truck at night at the baseball fields. There's a website devoted strictly to this, of people that used to chase this thing, and fog was everywhere. I'm living proof that you can live through it. That's a true story.
And you know what you're talking about,
I
coming
know
from Lake
exactly,
Village.
being from, yes, indeed. They were grown mosquitoes there.
I make a motion, we waive the readings.
Motion and second to waive the readings and bring this ordinance forward for discussion and action tonight. All in favor of waiving the 3 readings signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 8-0. This would be ordinance 01624.
Make a motion for adoption.
Motion and second for adoption, and the 2 gaps you see there would be for vector disease control. Yes, sir. And $150,000.
Where are we paying for this out of what budget?
We would bring it out of the general fund.
You know,
Just be a straight draw out of the general fund balance into the 2016 budget, what this would ultimately do. Is that fair, Mr. CFO? Any other discussion?
Well, I don't know that I'm completely sold. I mean, maybe y'all are. It's a lot of money to spend on something that's never really been a problem before. I mean, nobody's contacted me one way or the other.
I've not gotten any phone calls either.
I mean, people probably don't know about it. I mean, maybe we table it tonight, see if we get any feedback over the next 2 weeks. I mean, I'm not prepared to vote yes tonight. I mean, like I said, I've not heard from anybody who really is concerned one way or the other.
I think it was important here and what you guys can do from a service standpoint, because it's not just, trying to block this, what we think is going to happen. It's actually providing a service for people on a daily or weekly basis. So, I was prepared to vote no as well, but now it's kind of changed my mind, the service aspect of it.
Other thoughts? You want to hold this in committee, as Mr. Grimes suggested, for a couple of weeks?
See what happens.
Sounds fine to me. Get some ideas.
Little input.
Okay. Very good. I'll take a motion to that effect. And we
So moved.
appreciate motion and second. Hold in committee.
We'll pick it up anytime.
Did we read an ordinance number for that?
Mr. Jones?
I just got a question. This $150,000, what timeline, I mean, how long is that good for? A year, 2 years?
This season, I assume?
Yeah, 1 year.
Thinking of touch up days even,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be.
Mr. Clerk, did we read a ordinance number for that?
Do we have a copy of y'all's agreement that we would have?
Did not read an
Do we have a
ordinance.
copy of y'all's agreement?
Could you have a copy? Oh, yeah.
Do we, yeah, because we can go on and get the city attorney to start reviewing it. Very good. Any other discussion?
What we gave you was just a proposal.
Right, right.
And, if y'all decide to move forward with it, then we could, draw up a contract and get it approved by the city.
Do you have a template contract?
I can get you one.
Yes, so we can see the general terms and conditions that, go and get our city attorney comfortable with it.
It's for a year.
Okay, very good. Yeah, just a template or
Yeah, I can get you
something like somebody else's contract would be good. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Let me ask one more question. Can we check maybe with like Jonesboro or maybe some of the other cities that, not down south, but maybe up in the northeast corner, he said that they do, and just see if
They have, you guys put some references on here, didn't you?
Jonesboro was one of them.
I mean, I can promise you that they're well, it's a matter of whether you think the need is there. Because the service is good for these cities, because they've kept it and maintained it for years and years and years as customers. So I have no doubt of their customer service and what they deliver. It's whether it's a political demand. Obviously, we're not surrounded by rice fields like eastern Arkansas is, but we do have mosquitoes. So,
Was your
Chief?
question if we talked to other cities? We have. I think we've talked to 5 other cities in Arkansas and some out of state, and they all came back with good reviews of Vector. Yeah.
Yeah, the company has a very good reputation.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion to hold this in committee?
This is gonna be until the next meeting?
Just to the next meeting, and we'll ask again for any public input to get in touch with the city council members. If your concerns, either way.
If we decide on at the next meeting, can they implement it by code certain days?
Probably not, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, we can have a truck here within, I mean, we can be working within 24 hours, it's 48 hours.
Okay, it's just the full gamut of their, the larvicide, the adult, they may not be able to run the whole battery of,
It's like Chris said, I mean, we start out and we'll set traps on a weekly basis throughout the year. So we're setting, we'll set a trap on a Tuesday night or Tuesday afternoon, collect it on a Wednesday. And, we'll pull the mosquitoes, we'll identify them, we'll let you know what species of mosquito you have. We'll test them for West Nile to know if you have West Nile before somebody gets it. So, there's a procedure we do. If we call it a hot trap. If we have a hot trap, we'll send trucks out, 2 to 3 nights and spray within a half a mile radius around that area to try to get the diseased mosquitoes killed. And then, we'll come in during the week, every week and send a crew out during the day to larvicide, find out where the mosquitoes are breeding, and we can larvicide them, while they're in their larval stage before they hatch out. So we're killing them before they even grow wings. And then, like Chris said, the last resort, depending on the citizen complaints and the trap numbers and the disease is when we send our trucks out at night, so. I mean, if we get complaints from the citizens like, hey, we got some pretty bad mosquitoes over here on Johnson Street, and we'll send trucks out and spray.
This is just a drop in the bucket. The information that we've been giving you tonight, well, I can sit here and talk for 4 hours giving y'all information.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Not tonight.
This is just a little bit of information of what actually the mosquito control consists of.
Right.
Not just, everybody thinks about mosquito control as a spray truck, but there's a whole lot more to it if you do it professionally. This is just a little bit of information, just remember that.
very good.
I think we need to be proactive with our tire shops, especially to make sure they're following the procedure that,
That's up
that we have.
on the agenda too.
And if we find tires with water,
Because
we'll
I
put
know there's
larvicide
some.
in the tires. I mean, it's not like we just, we'll treat. I mean, if somebody has standing water in their backyard that, sits there for 5 to 10 days, we'll come out and put larvicide in their backyard to treat, to help, if they can't do anything about getting the water out of there, so.
Very good.
It's a full IPM, integrated pest management program.
Very good.
David, they call code enforcement. That's where the complaints are coming in. And not only just about the problem, but concerns about the Zika that's out and want to know if we have anything in place to do.
We might keep a record of how many we get over the next week.
Yeah, if you would.
Good.
That'd be great.
That'd be good.
Y'all might get some calls now, but when,
Season
June,
starts,
July,
yeah.
it's gonna be.
Absolutely. Well, we are on television tonight, so that will help. Very good. Any other comments? If not, all in favor of holding this in committee until our next council meeting, our 4th Tuesday council meeting, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. That passes 8-0. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Chief, thank you.
Girls?
The next item on our agenda, next items come under community development. Mr. Hawkins? I will turn these over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item is consideration to approve 2 new commissioners for the Advertising and Promotion Commission. We're losing 2 very valued members, Ray Kordsmeyer and Mike Kraft, who both have served several terms on that commission. We were forwarded 4 or 5 names total.
There were 5 total.
5 total. And the A&P Commission is forwarding to us the names of Travis Mulhern as an at-large representative and Alan Kaiser as a representative of the Hotel and Restaurant Division. And I would move that we grant those 2 appointments.
Motion and second to grant these 2 appointments. Discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins?
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to enter into an agreement with the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Services for horticulture-related programming. And who in the world wants to tell us about that?
This is basically something we've been going on, we've been doing for, I guess, close to 10 years now. Is that correct? This is the contract that allows us and the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Service to maintain Cami Marsh as a resource for the citizens of Conway and as a supplement to our Conway Tree Board and downtown, plannings and parks and recreation plannings. And this is, but not just us officially, but it's also available to the general citizenry of the city and the county. This is something we've been doing and paying half of her salary with them for, like I said, about 10 years.
Then I move that we re-enter that agreement.
Motion and second to enter into this agreement. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of approving this agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins?
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to approve the 2013 audit for the City of Conway presented by BKD. And
I am not BKD.
now, I know that you aren't. In fact, you are neither a B nor a K.
That's right. That's right. I'll just introduce to you Mr. Andy Richards. He's the with BKD accounting firm. He's their partner that's in charge of the City of Conway audit.
Good evening, everybody, and appreciate it. Thanks for having us up here. Just wanted to get an opportunity to get in front of you and present the results for the 2013 audit and take any questions that you all have about it. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at the audit report and also our letter to you that kind of addresses some of the required communications that we need to make to you as a governing body of the city. But the scope of the audit kind of covers 2 or 3 different areas. Just want to outline that briefly. I mean, it definitely covers the financial statements for 2013. I think the first letter you'll see in the report is our independent auditor's report over the financial statements. And basically the result is we've given you unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. Meaning we feel like the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects, and they're presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So not all cities do that level of reporting. We call it GAAP reporting. There's another state basis of accounting that's kind of less rigid. This is kind of what I feel like a more transparent and more in line with what cities across the nation are doing, particularly ones that are issuing bonds and things like that. So you got good results there. There was one emphasis of a matter just because some accounting rule changes, but I'm not going to get really into that unless you have a question because it doesn't have a really significant impact on your financial statements. The second part of the scope is we did an audit in accordance with the government auditing standards, which is what we're required by the state to do. We issue a report that considers your internal controls over financial reporting. And what that requires us to do is, as we go through and audit the financial statements, we're looking at the internal controls, the checks and balances within the city. And if we find anything during that assessment that we feel like rises to the level that could be what our industry calls a significant deficiency, means that we need to report that to you as a governing body, or even rises to a level what we feel like could be material weakness, meaning there's issues within the internal control structure that might cause a material misstatement of financial statements, and we're required to report those things to you and present those in the report. So for 2013, we didn't have any matters to report. I think in the prior that we had, you know, we made a comment. I think it was a significant deficiency. Just, I think there were some delays in reconciling the bank statements and things. But for 2013, that was all cleared up, and so there was no matters reporting there. The other piece of that is if we see anything that we feel like there's non-compliance with any state laws or regulations that you're required to comply with that might have a material impact on the financial statements, we're required to comment on that as well, but we didn't have any matters there either. So that's kind of the first part of the scope over the financial statements. The second piece of this deals with your expenditures of federal awards, your federal grants. And so, you know, you have a certain level of expenditures over $750,000 in a given year, you're required to go through this grant audit. And so for 13, you had $7.4 million worth of grant expenditures. And we're required to audit what's considered to be major programs. For you all for 2013, that was the airport improvement program that represented about $6.2 million of that 7.4. So a very large chunk of your federal dollars were spent towards that. Of course, it went towards the airport project that you all were doing then. So, and so there's a couple different aspects of that audit. You know, we're required to issue an opinion on your compliance with the federal rules. We issued an unmodified opinion, similar like we did with the financial statements, meaning that, you know, you materially complied with all the aspects of the federal grants, particular to that airport improvement program. So it's just a focus on that grant. The other aspect that it is similar to what we do in the financial statements is we look at the internal control structure that focuses on maintaining compliance with federal grants. And similar, you know, if there's any significant deficiencies that need to be communicated or any material weaknesses in those compliance that might cause material non-compliance, we need to report those things to you. And so we had good results when we went through the testing. Anything that we had was relatively minor, didn't have a material impact on your compliance, so there was no matters reportable there for federal grants. The last piece of the scope is under state laws, we're required to test your compliance with certain state laws. They kind of center around the municipal accounting law. They deal with some of the laws that apply to district courts or your police department, and then of course some of your bidding procedures and improvement projects there. And so kind of our responsibility there is just to examine, management assert to us that they've complied with these particular state laws. We go in and do a test or an examination over those things and see if they did. And so, you know, for the most part, everything was in compliance. There was one matter that was brought up, and it's in the letter, but it deals with, it's in the district court area, and it deals with reconciling completed ticket books that police officers turn in. You know, they turn in the tickets. They might have some that were voided or lost or those type of things. Those things are all supposed to be accounted for and tracked under the state law. And so we found some cases where, and it's actually isolated with the ticket books that are coming from the sheriff's department. The county sheriff has to send some of those into the district courts. We found that the municipal police officers were sending those in. Those were getting reconciled, but the one issue we noted was kind of isolated to that. So other than that, everything was in compliance there. And so, you know, overall, I think there were good results for 2013. And then also, you know, beyond just the audit report, you know, there's a separate letter on our letterhead. It's a required communication to you all. It deals with certain aspects of the accounting and the audit. I think it pretty much covers most of that when I kind of describe what our results are. Some of the other kind of minor things that we offered up for improvement are described in there, but I won't go into those in detail unless you want me to. So other than that, I'll just leave it at that and open up any questions y'all have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Should we contact the sheriff's department about that compliant? Is that,
How's the best way to approach that?
I think we have contacted them at the district court level.
okay,
Our court personnel has reached out to them and let them know that we need a little bit more cooperation from them.
thank you.
That's good.
All right.
That's all. Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
y'all. Have a
We
good
appreciate
evening.
it.
Thank you.
And we need a motion of approval.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second. Discussion? If there is no discussion, all in favor of approving the 2013 audit for the City of Conway, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins?
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance amending Ordinance 01616. It restates the interest rate and banking institution, promissory note to provide financing for certain infrastructure improvement for the street department. And we have been presented with new interest, or with interest rate quotes, I'm assuming, Finley, is that?
Yes, those are the new
These are the new ones.
rate quotes, yes.
And the,
We're advised by our bond counsel, the initial email I sent out may have had a misrepresentation of if the loan would be bank qualified.
if what?
If it was considered bank qualified.
Okay,
And it allows the banks to give us a better interest rate on our money. He said it was kind of a gray area. He said it probably would not be a good idea to advertise it as bank qualified. So we're asking to reject the original rate quote from Arvest. And in the meantime, we have taken new quotes, and that's what you have in your hand there.
okay. So the new rate quote, our best is 1.94 from U.S. Bank?
However, U.S. Bank, they rebid it as if it were bank qualified.
Okay, okay. So then we are now looking at Centennial Bank.
Now,
Is that correct?
I think Arvest Bank made them.
That's the
So
rebid
Arvest
of
is the
Arvest.
rebid.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Arvest is the rebid. And this was just handed out prior to the meeting.
Yes.
And Arvest Bank has bid
Now,
2.14%.
I will say, I contacted U.S. Bank before the deadline, which was noon Monday, and let them know that about the error they had bid on there. They were not able to get a new bid in before the cutoff. They did at about 12:30. Their quote was 2.03. It was after the deadline, but it was the best quote, so I put it on there for y'all to consider. But there were a couple other issues with their contract also.
I don't see
So is it not on there?
2.03. I don't see
Got
2.03 on
But it did come in after
It
the
ca- they
bid, so I don't
emailed-
think that's fairly
He emailed
allowable.
it to me
No,
after the
not
deadline.
if it
Is
came
that,
in now.
so you were very specific about a 12 noon
Yes.
deadline, is
Yes.
that correct?
And
Okay.
about no email bids also.
Okay, okay. Very good. Then Arvest Bank appears to be our best proposal at 2.14, is that correct?
Recommendation.
That cleanly meets what we needed to from our request for proposals.
Then I move that, move we waive the reading of the ordinance, first of all.
Second.
Motion and second to waive the reading of the ordinance and bring this forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0.
And then I would move for, go ahead. No, you're good. I move for adoption of the ordinance accepting Arvest Bank at 2.14%.
Second.
Motion and second for Arvest Bank at 2.14%, filled into the gaps in the ordinance in front of you.
And this is ordinance 1624?
Yes, sir.
1620?
24.
24 since we removed the other one.
Okay, very good. 24.
Yeah, 'cause I did
Any discussion? There is no discussion. Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Isby,
that. Abstain.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
That passes 7-0 with one abstention. Mr. Hawkins?
Here to finish up some business, appropriating some funds for the Spirit Home Assessment, to find out its worthiness for use. And we have an ordinance to read for this, to appropriate $23,311.16 for professional services. And
We waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second that we waive the readings on this ordinance and bring it forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the readings, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. I will point out that we had authority to contract with Napol's Construction Services to do this assessment. They delivered a huge, thick book on their assessment of it. What we didn't do was do the accounting ordinance that moved the money into the right spot to expend it. You'll notice that this is for the fiscal year 2015. This is going back and getting our ordinances lining up with our authorized expenditures. This is really just an accounting ordinance. You had already authorized that expense before we incurred it.
Make a motion for adoption.
Motion and second for adoption. Discussion? There is no discussion. Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins?
next item, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to amend the contract with Garver Engineering for professional services for T-hanger construction at Cantrell Field, and Mr. Josh Zilks is with us. Mr. Zilks, welcome.
Good evening, thank you. What we have before you tonight is an amendment to Garver's contract for design and construction observation of the T-hanger, which we built last year. Due to the contractor running over their, what was an originally projected to be a 90-day contract, ended up taking about 160 days. It went 70 days over time. There were some issues there. All that to say, we went $10,000 over what Garver had originally bid for the construction observation services. At the end of closing out the contract with the contractor, we did assess them those $10,000 to recover that money in liquidated damages. So the city has withheld that money. Final payment has been made. The contract is to the contractor is closed. So all that to say, the city and the airport is not out this extra $10,000, but we do need to amend the contract with Garver to be able to pay them and get their contract, part of that project, cleaned up. And I'll answer any questions.
That was a good explanation of the good faith effort that we've conducted with Garver to oversee a project that was problematic.
Who's our contractor?
Jane Construction,
From?
North Little Rock.
We're using them no more?
Not if you ask my opinion.
90-day job and it took 170, I'd say we take a real
Fix
close
them
look
all
next
to
time we get a bid from them.
Sounds like we got
That would be up to y'all.
Robertson, understand, you never
Yeah.
guess.
What would you think, Mr. Ledbetter?
I think we
adding
need to
them
put
to
on
his
the
list.
Same list I got with Farber
Farber
Lane.
Lane.
It's a list of two
My
now.
gosh, that's
Don't
banishing
need
people
to bring
to
it.
Chuckling in
outer
the
reaches
back
of
of the room.
civilization up there.
Make a motion, we amend this contract with Garver.
Second.
Motion and second to amend this contract with Garver to increase it by the $10,000 for construction observation cost. Discussion? There's no discussion. All in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zips.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to enter into an agreement with Entergy to relocate utilities on the Baker Wills Parkway South Interchange project, and we have several, we have a bid for this. Mr. Hall is the name on here, but I don't see him, and I don't see Mr. Vinson either.
Actually,
Hey, there you
Mr.
are.
Vinson right there,
There
yeah.
you are. Would you like to come up and, I knew I'd seen you earlier.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
I think this is pretty straightforward. There were several wooden poles and mostly service lines that needed to be relocated as part of the construction that's ongoing to complete the Baker Wills Parkway. And Entergy is just asking for us to reimburse them for their cost.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to reimburse Entergy for the cost of relocating these primarily service lines and poles to service various customers that may one day be citizens of Conway, by the way. But this is something we did check the extant right-of-ways that were out there, whether we could compel them to move, even though it's beyond our city limits, whether we could compel them through the county's jurisdiction. We beat all the bushes we could. This is a cost that they are justified in us paying for our construction project. So,
Do you have any idea when they will move them? Are they gonna move in a timely manner, or do we know that? 'Cause
I sure hope so.
it's about as good as it gets.
Can we hold the check till they move them?
we can do that.
Then let's do it.
Although they might want it up front. If that's the case, then we will cut it if it's
I
going to be an
think-
impediment to getting it done.
Yeah, I think if, I mean, I don't know if we can make them move them since they're not in our right of way.
This is a business deal,
Yeah.
in essence.
We're paying them to move it.
Right.
The negotiations have been friendly so far.
And typically, this is not the utility we have delay problems with. That would
No,
be
that's true.
AT&T.
I have no reason to believe there would be any substantial delay.
And actually, you can see by the note that they have lowered the price dramatically. So they are playing ball with us, and they recognize that.
Certainly.
They've probably anticipated this and are ready to act, I'm going to guess. But like Mr. Ledbetter said, we'll find out. We have a motion and second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of approving this $53,546.90 to reimburse Energy for relocating poles and wiring facilities, tree trimming, and right-of-way easement acquisition. All in favor for that, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next item is consideration to approve the appraisal for property located at the intersection of Salem and College. The specific address is 2901 College Avenue for the potential construction of a roundabout. And we have the appraisal here from, I was thinking Kent Baker. That's who it is.
Yes.
Kent Baker. And his appraisal came in at, right at
160,000.
the value of the home, $160,000. We had offered $159,500.
Yes.
So I think this makes it pretty.
This was the last condition that we had a satisfactory appraisal. Whatever the appraisal was it satisfactory to us? And it came in just slightly over what we have agreed to pay for the house. This is the only approval we need from you to proceed with the purchase of this house.
So we're just gonna bulldoze that whole house down, or?
We would probably come back, we do not need it sitting vacant and becoming an attractive nuisance, so we will probably act quickly to go on and take it down when we purchase it. You'll remember that they are actually letting Habitat for Humanity come in and salvage anything from the house that they could reuse in some of their Habitat houses. So we think it's a great idea, but that's the homeowner doing that.
Right.
So, do we have a motion
So moved.
Second.
and second to approve this appraisal and proceed towards acquisition of the house? We did have some comments come into our office for people who might wanted to express concern about this. Would anybody like to speak on this issue? Primarily, and not so much purchase the house, but don't put a roundabout there, I think.
I just heard from one person.
If not, no other discussion. All in favor of approving this appraisal and proceed, and approval for proceeding with purchasing the house, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. We will put an ordinance in front of you allocating the money appropriately for that. Mr. Hawkins?
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance appropriating grant funds received for the Spencer Street Brownfield Cleanup Project. It's a total of $740, and This looks like a bookkeeping ordinance to me, so it's ordinance 01626.
Make a motion that we waive the three readings.
Motion and second that we waive the three readings and bring it forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the reading, say aye.
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 All opposed? That passes 8-0. The ordinance is before us for action.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption of the ordinance. This is $740 of grant funds. We're recognizing as a revenue and placing it in an expense account, and this is a bookkeeping ordinance. It's that simple. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Miss Isby?
Yes.
Miss Mel? Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Miss Smith?
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
It takes me back to
That passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins?
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is another bookkeeping ordinance. It's an ordinance accepting and appropriating donation funds for the Conway Tree Board in the amount of $700, and it's ordinance 01627.
Make a motion, we waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second that we waive the three readings and bring it forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the readings, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. The ordinance before us for action.
Motion for adoption.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption. Discussion? Again, this is an accounting ordinance, recognizing the revenue and placing it in expense in our current budget. No discussion, Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Miss Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Miss Isby?
Yes.
Miss Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
That passes 8-0, and I still haven't gotten used to that, Mrs. Isby.
I hadn't either.
Mr. Hawkins.
I keep looking for Ms. Whitmore.
That's what he says it will,
Long
Miss
gone.
Esby. He just rolls it right out.
He's gotten good.
Would you hyphenate that for us, so we'll at least,
Whitmore Isby?
No.
Mr. Hawkins, take it from there. Go.
Isby Whitmore. Next item is an ordinance annexing some lands that have been completely surrounded by incorporated limits of the City of Conway, and we have an ordinance for this item. It's ordinance 01628.
Make a motion for, that we waive the three readings.
Second.
Motion and second that we waive the three readings and bring this forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. We have the ordinance before us for action.
Make a motion for adoption.
Number one, that was 7-0, not 8-0, but we have a motion for adoption. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion and second for adoption. We have any discussion?
Not heard from me.
If there is no discussion, this is simply closing two islands that the city has completely surrounded. We have that in our authority under state law, and it grants the city the cleanliness of having all utilities in that area served to the degree possible by one utility company, and public safety response in that area completely clarified. There's no other discussion. Mr. Garrett.
Miss Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Miss Smith?
Yes.
Miss Isby?
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
And the final item on this portion of the agenda, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance to rezone property at and near Central Baptist College in various locations in the Boulevard Addition and the Davies and Garvin's Annex. Presently, they're zoned R2A, and the requested zoning would be to rezone to S1. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their meeting on, I'm looking for the date. What was your date on that, Brian? Do you remember?
Gosh, it's been.
March 14th.
March 14th, thank you very much. And this was failed to, or was voted down, 2 votes in favor, 6 votes against, with Commissioners Brooks Freeman, Valencia Hervey, Marilyn Armstrong, Brian Quinn, Justin Brown, and Ann Tucker voting in opposition on the motions. And CBC would like to appeal this tonight. Is that right, President Kimbrough? Yes, sir. Very good. I would...
And I will say that they have modified their proposal.
Yes,
So,
yes.
President Kimbrough, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I have been at Central Baptist College for 24 years. So know all of you very well. I hope you know me. It is our desire to be good community partners and good neighbors. In fact, we just moved out 18 mobile homes in an area that's already zoned S1, and we plan to build on that corner. This block between what is already rezoned S1 and our current campus contains a group of properties identified as Parcel B, Parcel A. And as I have spoken to dozens of community groups about our vision for the future, about our plans for not only student enrollment expansion, but the expansion of the campus southward, I would say it's been not just well received, but it's been embraced. So what we're asking is simply to accept the planning department staff's recommendation to approve those two parcels from R to A, which is my understanding is large lot duplex, to S1 institutional. And what we're asking is really nothing more than to approve what is already in existence for colleges and universities. 3 blocks, all of those 3 blocks are already in a transition zone for us, voted, I think, in 2011. And so now one, Parcel B, unless I have them backwards, is 3 lots, 1 full acre that is across the street that we have owned. And it's very well known in the community that, in that community especially, that we're purchasing all of those houses as they become available and have had not really one complaint about that. So I do want to remind you and the guests that all construction will still be subject to approval by the Conway Historic District Commission. In other words, we can't build anything without their approval, and it will go through that commission. So I present that, be glad to answer any questions.
What are your plans for that piece of property?
Yes. Between this piece of property where we don't own all of the structures, so it would be somewhat presumptuous to develop plans when you don't own all the property. That's why we went all the way down on the other end to build the complex.
Like where the trailers were and all that?
That's already rezoned. Our plans is for a CBC event center, which would include area for our Mustang, our 12 intercollegiate sports, hopefully 14 soon.
Good.
If we had tennis. Took my sticker off, though, to stand up here. And those plans are underway as far as the drawings, the schematic drawings.
You guys have an overall master plan, like long-term master plan for the whole area? I mean, you guys have a lot of land, it looks like you're ready to acquire.
We do. We have a 2010 master plan, and that's only 6 years ago. We didn't own any of those properties.
Right.
So it's happened so quickly that we are working on a master plan. But again, anything we do as far as master planning, we can do it, but it still has to go through the Historic District Commission. So we will, even that master plan will go to them.
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming you've shared your master plan with the neighbors, the neighborhood, and everybody kind of around it.
I don't go neighbor to neighbor,
Right.
but it's in the newspaper, and again, I hit just about every civic club and anybody who will listen, really. I know most of the neighbors. I would say I know the majority of the neighbors. There are neighbors I don't know.
Right.
But I have a lot of letters of compliment and only a few letters of complaint. And those are minor and things that we have addressed, have nothing to do with construction, really.
To be honest, I haven't heard from anyone in that area at all.
And
in
specifically,
opposition.
Mr. Kimbrough, President Kimbrough, the request tonight is to rezone what's identified on the maps as segment A, segment B, and segment C?
No,
Not C?
D, is it D?
B and C only.
B and C?
We removed anything, but, I mean,
Okay, so,
we have the board, I don't know if we should turn it to you because you have that, or turn it to them.
actually, but that's actually good to make sure, because we have A, B, C, D, E, F.
Well,
Well,
there's another sheet in there. That's the original.
And that, we knew there was, you were gonna limit that, we just wanted
Yes.
to make sure we knew.
But there is,
exactly.
this map is in there. And the recommendation on page 7 from the staff of the planning department is area B and C only.
B and
Very
C,
good.
okay.
what- here's my thoughts on this. You mentioned your plan or your master plan at one point is to move southward, which is pretty much that rectangle between Conway Boulevard and Center Street, southward to Robbins. And that's what C represents?
Yes.
All right.
That's our target. Really, that's been our target
Right,
area.
Right, and I got no problem with C, but A, B, G, F, E, and D are not southward.
Well,
That gets beyond, I mean, that's a different deal, and I'm not saying that is not gonna be acceptable, but that's not southward, and that's moving into other areas of downtown, or Old Conway, that may or may not be appropriate for an S1, for a college institute, maybe it is.
those are not in our request, though.
Well, I know, but do you own those properties?
We do own them.
Okay, then at some
Yeah.
point, I'm guessing you'll come back for an S1.
I don't know. Some of those well, all of the properties that we own outside of what we consider our target area are, to be honest with you, too good to be true deals in the city of Conway. So
No,
we buy those, especially if we're in the estate for right of first refusal,
Sure.
or they're given to us. I mean, it's, you know, who
I guess
wouldn't?
maybe what I'm trying to get at is, if you're looking to move beyond your long rectangle between Conway and Center, maybe we should have, and maybe you've done this, maybe you should have a longer, bigger discussion with the planning department about where you want your campus to be, instead of just, like UCA did, and the hospital hodgepodge it together over time, and you've got all this snaggletooth stuff that not the best it could have been. Because that's what I see, snaggletoothing happening here.
Well, I understand, Mr. Grimes, but we cannot build on those properties because they are not zoned S1.
Well,
And we would have to come back to you. And we have no plans to, the ones on Sims and places like that, again, in the city of Conway, if you can buy property at less than what it's worth.
I
then-
get that, I
Well,
get
the
that.
thing
but-
is, I guess they have to buy them as they become
Well,
valuable.
I fully
Yes.
get that, but evidently you've got your eyes on stuff to the west, F, E, and D, stuff to the east, A and B, and stuff to the north, G, and that's great.
No, well,
But, I mean, how far are you gonna go? I mean, I can't predict the future, but how far do you think you're gonna go? I mean, G is pretty far off your main
G
campus.
is an estate gift, so it's kind of like we tell her, no, we don't want this, or sure.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it was a gift, and you're talking about Scott Street, I'm assuming.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's an estate gift.
Yeah.
A life estate, when she passes away, it's ours. And she knows that we plan to sell it. It's a little too sentimental for her.
Yeah.
Right now, but we don't plan to go to Scott Street. There's no practical
Well, I guess
reason
that's
to
what
go
I'm
to
asking.
Scott
I mean,
Street.
I would just hope that we have a,
Anyway.
well, they originally asked for an S1 zoning on it, so they had some plan.
On the
Well,
G that he's saying that was
They
given to
originally
him.
asked for it, so it was came to mind at one point.
What came to mind is it's much easier to ask for an S1. I mean, that's just me, all at once, than to just constantly barrage you. I don't know that was ever practical. I could say it was a mistake, and it was an oversight on my part.
Well, I would just like to see maybe a little more thought go into how this expands into a existing neighborhood. And
So
I'll stop there.
I have
clarify
got
that.
complaints from people in that neighborhood just about not really knowing what the plans were. You know, and honestly, not having. I know that you went to all the the civic clubs and all that, and I can understand that and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But there were several neighbors that I spoke to that didn't really know what was going on. Of course, they're scared that you're going to take those properties and bulldoze them and put a parking lot in there. I'm not
But we
saying you
can't do
are.
that without
Without
Historic Commission approval, and I can guarantee you haven't been there.
Right.
It's not gonna happen.
I know, but I mean, it's just, there's some things that just weren't, it didn't seem very open with some of the neighbors, and I mean, that's just feedback that I get. You know, I don't live in that neighborhood, so, it's not me personally, but I know that some of the neighbors did have some concerns because they didn't know what exactly was going on. They felt like maybe Central Baptist College could have been a little bit more outgoing with asking, so that's why I'm asking the questions.
Sure.
So,
Our plans are to go, and by the way, I have a 20-member board that I answer to.
Right.
So when we buy something, it goes to that property acquisition committee of the board.
Right.
And then it's ratified at the board meeting. Our plans are to focus on those 3 blocks
Right.
bordered by Center, Conway Boulevard, Robbins. There is that one parcel, 3 lots, 1 acre.
Yeah.
Parcel
B.
Right.
That we would like to have rezoned, because when you look at what is constructed on the corner, these series of
Looks like mostly
duplexes.
multifamily duplexes.
Yes, I'm not, and with our plans to build a major athletic complex, event center, I have trouble, in my mind, you look at the 18 mobile homes and what we have done, not that we have done it, but the community has helped us do it.
And thank you for that.
Well, okay. So we feel like we may need this because it's not right next to any beautiful residential homes. In fact, if you look at that lot, it needs, there's not much you can do to it that wouldn't look good. And we can't do anything without the Historic Commission approval. We can't. And I've been there. And we reworked our whole master plan in 2011. Spent a lot of money because they said, we don't like this. And I said, we'll change it. And we did. So the ones, when you say you've heard something, I believe that, Wes, but I wish I could hear.
Right.
Because I'm pretty open.
Right.
I'm out. I walk around the campus. I talk to neighbors, maybe not the right ones. But, again, we've had, in my tenure, 24 years, 12 years as a VP, 12 as a president, very well known that this is where we want to go. In fact, we've expanded that because I thought the vision was too short-sighted to stop at Bruce. It's very well, Mr. Grimes, possible, and I hope it's probable, that we'll go beyond the borders. We'll go across Conway Station Park, and we'll take Bean Street. I don't think anybody would mind. Now, if there's anybody in here that lives on Bean Street, I'm just saying, we can't limit what we think is the growth to those 3 blocks, but right now, probably in my, whatever time I have left, hopefully it's beyond tonight, that we'll be able to expand further. We're looking at places in other parts of the Faulkner County, for other things.
I guess I kind of compared a little bit to UCI. They bought parcels of land as they became available, and over time, they've acquired enough to do a bigger project. But it's taken
Well, and I'm not
several
talking about
years
that.
to do.
I'm not talking about that at all. They've slowly over time acquired pretty much the entire Donaghy
Yeah.
corridor, and that's fine. But, let's realize that now UCA is on that side of Donaghy. And so let's talk, do you want, I'm not asking, do you want CBC on the east side of Conway Boulevard? You bought 2 pieces of property on the east side, so I'm assuming the answer is yes.
We bought those 3 lots because, I hate to reveal the price, but if you can buy 3 city lots, we did those,
So
it's
your
kind of
answer-
like, if we have to sell them later, that's fine. But we're not in the landlord business, but we also know a good deal when we see it. And,
I fully get all that.
Yes.
I'm just
And to be
saying.
honest with you, when, if you do
It's-
sell them later,
Yeah.
there'll be a rezoning request that won't be single-family residential or probably duplex.
Yeah.
It'll come to us as multiple.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
we've already been
No doubt.
offered to somebody
And
to
it
buy
may be that
and
you're
get
the
that
best
offer.
landlord to buy all that stuff up. I'm just saying this.
In that one B, but you have a good point.
Well, can I,
Yeah.
I think what I've heard you say, President Kimbrough, so I'm going to state this and you can say yes or no, is that what the original rezoning request represented was property that you owned already, and you were trying to get it all rezoned one time. Is that fair enough to say?
Fair enough.
Not to say that you had plans to move east or west or north.
They already have. That's what I'm trying to say. They've already bought property east, west, and south, so they have.
just wanna rezone
And I'm
it,
not saying it's
you know,
bad, but
every time.
maybe I'm not communicating this, but they're moving outside that southward movement. Just, I mean, let's realize that. I'm not saying it's
Well,
bad.
we're moving outside by buying land. We are renting those
Adjacent.
properties.
Well,
The land use still
Yeah.
is dictated by what we set it up to be.
Right.
If
Yes.
it's zoned for, they can't use it for office if it's R2A. So it's
Right.
still governed by what our land use assignment is.
David, what are you thinking that there, where are their borders, do you think that is,
I don't have any idea. I was
Realistic.
kind of asking the question if they had any idea where the borders would go. Looks like they're, I mean.
I understand, I'm not real excited about them going east of Conway Boulevard necessarily, and start hitting
Yeah.
all those streets over there. And I want you to stay south of College really, because that's such a main thoroughfare through there. It's kind of like Donaghy
look-
for UCA.
Yeah.
We are not going, in my lifetime, north of College, because I don't even like to cross it to
I
park
know,
at the
it's-
church.
it's-
Well, you've
it
explained
is.
it. It was a
It's
gift. I get that.
It's like
It was a
Frogger
gift.
when you heard.
But y'all bought property on the east and west.
Yes.
And that's fine, but, I mean, it tells me you have plans to move eastward and westward, and that's fine, but let's realize that's what we're getting into here.
Okay, I mean, I can say for the record, we have no plans to move westward,
Well, then why'd you buy property to the west?
because,
It became available. and they
Okay,
bought
okay.
it.
It's
It was a
cheap.
good deal.
Hang
You
on.
can sell
I
it.
mean, it's an investment. Pardon me? We're renting it right now. We're renting it.
Wasn't in the real estate business.
Okay, hang on, people.
Body show, flip, flop
Hang on.
property. I mean,
That's not an issue tonight.
This corner
Well,
here.
it's
What's
not
at
for
issue
me.
tonight is a rezoning request
I wanna see them.
for C and B.
Here,
Just C and B.
The C and B.
Okay, I got a question for Bob.
C and B.
And
I got a question about C, if somebody listens.
Okay, B is probably one that's of most question. When we build, hopefully, and, I mean, I said it once and it was, I mean, I can't say how much it'll be, but it'll be in the paper if I do. It'll be the largest project in the history of the institution. It will transform that neighborhood in a good way, in a good way. If we need those 3 lots across the street for bus parking, which I'm open in saying that's probably what will happen. Privacy fences, gates, then it will have to go to the historic district. And they can say, no, you can't use that. At which time we'll probably say, okay, we can probably triple our money. But at this time, these other ones that are not an issue, I know, were strictly either investments or estate gifts, and we just maintain those.
Okay, I got a question.
Take your word for it.
I got a
Well,
question.
that's all I've got.
No, I got a question.
Yes.
I see a lot of, I see several parcels in C that hadn't been purchased.
Yes, sir.
What are these people saying about, have you approached them about trying to buy it? Are they talking about they don't want to sell? I mean, have you I'm not either for or against, but you're talking about proposing a large facility there
Yes, on the other side.
on those,
Yes.
okay.
Down by Robbins.
Okay, I understand, but there's still, there's places down there hadn't been sold as well, apparently.
Yes.
Well, it's still, if you're gonna talk about.
They don't have eminent domain.
Yeah.
They can't,
That's
they
what he
can't
said,
condemn it.
but-
There are 2 on that block. No, 3, sorry.
Available.
There are 3 on that block. 2 of those, we've had discussions with, they're open, I mean, they're friendly, because we don't have an eminent domain. We really want to be friendly. One of them doesn't live here. It's that small white house. He may be a holdout forever, and I told him, you realize you may have an athletic facility in your backyard, and he said he's fine with that. He doesn't live here. The other ones in
C.
C,
That's the ones I'm talking about.
we have conversations with one of them. The other one, the lady's in the nursing home. I know her family. They don't want to sell it until she dies, to be honest with you. The one right by it says R2A, and I know him very well. I just coach. Somebody knows him. The coach.
Coach
Manicures
Graham.
his yard.
Joe Graham.
Yeah, Coach Graham. I stop and see him. He has family over on Tuesday nights. Yes, we have talked to those people, but, you know, just the same way we bought the other 50 properties, we're very careful about saying we're going to, I mean, I'm just don't operate that way. We're going to buy your property. We'd like to be considered. And only one that in my 24 years has offered it to us for about double the appraised value, and we just said we'll wait, and eventually they sold it. But, I mean, if there are people here who own properties that they don't want us to have, I don't know who they are, and again, in the weeks, months to come, because those won't be rezoned, because we don't own them. I'm open. I mean, that can be, if there are any reporters here, they can put that in the paper. Because, again, we want to be good neighbors. And David, yes, we do own outside. But, you know, I wish our total master plan was ready. We've been working on getting some things ready for the athletic complex. We are limited in the fact that we don't own all those, and I don't want these neighbors that we don't own seeing a master plan that covers their property. I dealt with that before, and he's forgiven me. He came to the Conway Historic Commission meeting, and his house was a parking lot, and I didn't know he would be there because that was part of a master plan, and he didn't like it too much, but he's forgiven me, and now we speak.
Any other questions of Mr. Kimbrough?
Anything from Brian?
Yeah, there's some people we want to have ask to discuss things, offer a chance.
Does anybody else want to speak against it?
You bet. Mr. Patrick, do you want to speak at this point? Anything you'd like to say?
Subject's been covered at this point. If any specific questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I'd be curious to know the ones that spoke in opposition to it in the planning commission, what their concerns were.
I think we may have some in the audience.
We probably do. You want to let them speak?
I would love
And then we
to.
can ask further questions of Mr. Patrick. Anybody, yeah, you stay close, Mr. Kimbrough.
I'll be ready.
Mr. Barber?
I'm David Barber. I live at 1721 Sims. I was at the planning meeting. I don't want to say I speak for the neighborhood because I don't, but we do have an organization on Facebook of neighbors. The College Park neighborhood is what we've been calling it, and it is the area that surrounds Central Baptist College on all sides, so runs north of College, south down to the ballpark, east and west, kind of, you know, more amorphous. So while I'm not speaking for everyone, I was at the meeting. I heard what the others expressed. Unfortunately, some of them had planned to come. They weren't able to come. I'd like to kind of run through what seemed to be the general consensus. And again, I'm not speaking for everyone in the neighborhood. Generally speaking, what seemed to be the case is that the neighborhood is supportive of the concept of CBC expanding. Like, no one is saying, we don't think they should grow. It's great for the town. It's great for the neighborhood. It's great for everyone. They've been building some really wonderful stuff. However, we did have concerns that there did not seem to be necessarily a great deal of coherent planning going into the things that were being laid out. I would note in response to the question about purchasing land outside of the borders, that while purchasing land doesn't necessarily imply use, rezoning it certainly seems to. So conversations I've had included people who were concerned that the rezoning would lower the property value of neighboring properties that had not yet sold. I had a conversation with one person who indicated that had actually occurred to him. I can't verify the truth of that, but certainly I understand the concern that if the land around you is all marked off already, it would seem to imply something about your land and what's going to happen to it. There were people at the meeting who lived in the area that is marked, that is the main corridor, who had not been aware any of this was occurring. It was quite a kind of dramatic person. I recommend you check the minutes if you're interested, but it certainly was one of those situations where you're like, wow, that's an oversight that we would prefer not to see. And certainly a number of people seemed to be surprised when the actual extent of the rezone was revealed. People had seen individual signs but had not seen sort of the coherent plan and had not had communicated to them that this was a much larger movement that was occurring. Areas that have already been rezoned have been used in ways that do not comply with city planning rules. So several of the little areas around there basically had a dump truck of gravel poured on them, and they've been turned into ad hoc parking, which is, if you don't know, I'm also on the city walking and biking board. I get very antsy when sidewalks aren't constructed. So this personally for me was quite a thing I did not enjoy. And so I think a lot of people do have concerns that, it's very hard to fix things once they're done. And we've seen evidence that perhaps the actions that are taken may not necessarily always comply fully with city planning. And we have a concern that if this gets rezoned, we lose some control over making sure that there's actually a plan that's going to make these areas part of a nice city that everyone who lives in the neighborhood would like to be a part of. I do have a couple of statements from other people. I don't know if I can read those. If I can't, stop me now. So let me see. Dustin Botsford lives in the neighborhood. Quote, I, Dustin Botsford, firmly believe the Planning Commission made the right decision originally. I feel it is the duty of the council to uphold this decision as it is the best interest of its citizens, unquote.
Could you give me those people's addresses when you read them?
I don't know his address. I apologize.
The only reason I'm saying living in the neighborhood could be a large area.
3 blocks.
We're trying to find the
Yeah, no,
proximity
that's
of
fair.
where-
I do not know exactly where he's located.
Mr. Botsford lives on Sims, but I do not know the number.
Right on the street, he lives on Sims.
Lives across the street from me at 20.
Scott.
Oh, Scott Street, okay.
Okay. Um,
Oh, this guy over here.
It runs parallel with David.
and
Yeah, it's,
let me see if I can find the other one here. Nope, it's not going to happen. So basically someone else, similar sort of line, which is basically, and to kind of wrap up, we think that the Planning Commission made the right decision, and we think that it would be a lot easier to envision this rezoning if there were a more coherent, if we understood what was going to happen to that land. At this point, it seems like a mass rezone without necessarily concrete steps, and we have concerns that the rezone itself will have consequences that are unforeseen. So.
Now, do you know they took Scott's Sims and everything off the proposal for the night?
Yeah.
And the only thing they have now is between Center Street and Conway Boulevard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
B and C, right?
yeah, B and C.
And those were two, if you read the planning report, that the staff thought should be approved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those weren't
those
even
two
on
by
the
themselves.
planning
Yeah.
Right,
They were removed prior to the
D and
planning commission.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know that creates a lot of confusion. And
Yeah, there was actually, yeah, so everything actually went to the planning commission. The planning commission disallowed one plot for being actually not large enough to request. Others were removed at the meeting in order to consider just the part that was this core part. But again, this core part, as someone on the council noted, is not actually completely contiguous. And as noted, people have expressed concern that in rezoning these areas, people who are adjacent or impacted by that would have certain repercussions on them, specifically in terms of possible property value issues and in terms of what is done with the land in the period between the time it is rezoned and the time where something is actually done with it officially. So,
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any questions, Mr. Barber?
thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Kimbrough?
Yeah. The small parcels that he's talking about, I know that's not, I mean, I feel like I need to answer that, but that's not a part of this appeal. The small parcels that we had the gravel poured on, you recall?
Which we allowed.
Okay.
For
I mean, I wasn't putting words in your mouth.
Temporary expedient
Yes.
parking for,
Enrollment growth, couldn't park on the streets. Well, we did. It had serious ramifications. Like, a lot of tickets, and since there were no signs, they avoided the tickets, but they put up signs. So, you know, it's kind of like, do you want student growth or not? Well, of course I do, but they have to park. And we utilize the Church of Christ and Nazarene church parking lots, which I so appreciate, because it keeps us from having to build. I mean, parking lots are unbelievably expensive to build. So we use those. A lot of faculty, staff park there. I park at the Nazarene church. But to get the buses out of the parking lots, we did upon your approval. And that's the part. And if we need to do something to spruce that up some, we
at
can
some
do it.
point, we
Well,
will need that.
and that was our,
Ultimate.
that was our agreement at some point, but it used to be a river when it rained, at least, you know, we canoed back there. I'm open to answering any questions, but that is the reason that gravel was put there, and it was, I have the memo.
I'm glad.
I want to ask you another question. It has
Yes.
nothing to do with the gravel and none of that. In partial C, in partial S, S1, where you got down here, that you don't own this property here, and you don't own the property in C, will you wait until you purchase all this before you start construction? Or are you gonna start some work before you purchase the property?
I mean, it's difficult to say. If we purchased enough to have a good block of it, to build something, whatever it would be.
Your S1 zoning, you're gonna do the athletic complex. Do you have enough land in there right now to do what you wanna do without the 3 lots that you need?
We have enough to do really more than we can do,
Okay.
because we have the schematic drawings. The other block, we would not build anything until, obviously, because it's, I mean,
It's a hodgepodge.
it is. But there are a few properties that I feel sure we will get after, but we don't,
Do you have first right of refusal on those?
No.
Or not?
no, I mean, one of them is just in process.
Yeah.
We have,
Like when they sell it, they're gonna say, I'm gonna come to you first, and then, and,
Yes.
you do? Okay.
we have walked the streets. Now, did we go outside and ask? No, but we walked the streets, my previous vice president and me, and talked to every single neighbor. Many of them were not the homeowner. They were tenants. So we contacted the homeowner, but had no pushback at all. Now, Did we go to this neighborhood association? No, because it's probably 6 weeks that I don't know, maybe 8 weeks ago that they formed that, so it's new.
It actually could be a good partner
Oh.
for y'all moving forward, yeah.
Well,
Point of concentration.
it has to be a good, I mean, I'm not saying it has to be, but I mean, for us to do what we think is the right thing, we need to be a good partner with that group.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm,
Dues paying member too, probably.
well, I know I wouldn't go that far, but
Rick was right there, built a brand new house right there.
surely we're exempt from that dues.
I'd say that's public relations. Any other discussion? David, you started to say something a moment ago.
No, I don't remember. It'll come to me.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to waive the readings yet?
No, we do not.
I make a motion to waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second to waive the readings. All in favor of waiving the reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. The ordinance be O-1629.
29.
I
Is
make
there
a
any other
motion.
public discussion? I don't know if we asked.
And we can offer, yeah,
Did we ask?
anybody. Yeah, Mr. Parrott?
Hello, my name is John Parrick, and I represent the ownership group that owns the Stonegate apartment complex at 1410, which is the 2.64 acres of the block just to east of Block B. And I want to, I certainly appreciate what the CBC has done thus far for that area, but I am concerned about rezoning on something which seems to be more opportunistic than strategic, because I'm concerned about property values just as much as the people who live there. I don't personally live on that block, but I'm part of a group that has invested $2.6 million in improvements on that block. And hearing about a parking lot being put in there, and buses being put in there, and fences being put in there, does not sound like something that's going to improve the quality of the life for the people that live there, or the value of the improvements that have been put there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parrott. Any questions of Mr. Parrott?
Which land did you say you had?
Corner of Robbins and Oliver, is that it?
It's a 24-unit complex that was
Yeah.
built in
Okay.
2010.
Eastern area backs
Yeah,
up to.
I knew, I was just trying to figure out which one he.
That one's new too, right? Like it's
Pretty new.
Yeah, it's new in 2010.
Okay.
Right where he's showing it, yes.
It's probably about 40% of the entire block in terms of land.
That's exactly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very good. Absolutely.
What they've rebuilt here is pretty nice too. Rock wall.
Anytime we have constructed a building, and I hope that the community appreciates the extensive landscaping far beyond what is required by city. It's, in fact, you know, we just kind of let a landscape architect kind of go, and I'm glad we did. We also have had neighbors with concerns, and, you know, we have just done everything we can, because we are Central Baptist College. We're a Christian institution. You know, we get accused of non-Christian enough because we collect tuition. You know, that's a joke, but it's not. So anything that we do, when I say a fence, when I say a gate, buses have to go somewhere, and we have buses, and we're going to have more buses. It's better for them to be secure. I mean, all I can do is tell you, there's a lot of trust in this. There is a lot of trust in this. All I can do is tell you that if we do that, we won't put up a 6-foot privacy fence and a chain link gate. You know, I think you can judge by our other buildings that they are first class. We have a first class architect. We've used first class builders. I just would encourage you to look at the before and after if you haven't lived here, and judge really based on what we have done thus far. Because I can guarantee you, you know, my reputation is on the line. I've invested 24 years, and I would kind of like to ride off into the sunset, not as quickly as you are, Mayor.
Yeah, so you
But-
have to hurry up, if you're gonna do it as quickly as I
I
am.
often say, you know, I'm there until the board of the Lord has me leave. And, because there may be others that would want me to, but we really do want to be good neighbors, and we welcome visits. I want to know, and sometimes I'm a little blindsided, and I take responsibility for not blanketing, but they'd think I was a politician if I walked every door, especially in this.
Pick your season if you're gonna do that, so.
I don't plan to do that.
I make them,
You can go and make a motion if you want to.
I want to say something. I want to say something. You make your motion.
Mr. Sal?
Mr. Mayor and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Rick Sowell, and I reside at 330 Conway Boulevard. I'm in a unique position here in that I'm not only a neighbor to CBC, but I'm part of the CBC family, and I appreciate those kind words from President Kimbrough. We have designed the last several projects there at Central Baptist College. My wife and I elected to move to Conway Boulevard. We moved in about a year ago. And one of the primary reasons for moving to Conway Boulevard was because of CBC. And I will just go ahead and tell you this, that the idea of the College Park neighborhood is mine. I'll take full responsibility for it. The unfortunate thing is that I missed the first meeting because my son had cancer surgery in New Orleans and I had to leave, and I asked Lance Johnston to fill for me. And the reason that I've proposed that College Park neighborhood is because I think that one of the great values and one of the great assets of that neighborhood is Central Baptist College. And I doubt seriously if my wife and I would have been so eager to move to this location had it not been for Central Baptist. Now, again, I'm on both sides of the street here, but I think they are an asset to the neighborhood. I will support them in whatever they do. I do believe that they are responsible as an entity. Otherwise, I would not have moved in the house across the street, actually constructed the house across the street from them. So I support them, my family supports them, and I know there's not a lot of us here probably to speak tonight, but there are a lot of people that are very pleased to be the neighbor of Central Baptist College, and I'm one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sal.
I'd like to say one other thing, and then we can go and vote if you want. I'm for the growth of CBC because we allowed it for Hendricks as well as UCA. But it's also our duty to ask the questions for the residents that live in that area. We are for the growth, but we also are concerned for the residents. And so I had the need to find out, because I'm sure some of them at home wanted some of these questions asked. And I'm 100% for y'all expanding, but we just want to make sure it's done the right way. That's what we're here for. I just want to get that off. Okay.
Very good. Mary?
I was just gonna make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Any other questions or comments?
We actually could take questions and comments at any time.
Well,
Yeah,
okay, well, I mean.
we gotta do something whether we vote this up or down.
Okay, so one more thing. When's the last time that we approved a rezoning for someone that didn't have a plan of exactly what they're gonna do with the land?
Rezonings have nothing to do with the plan, technically.
No.
Technically.
Technically, they don't.
But we never asked.
That's all done in the zone they asked for. Anything that's allowed in that zone can be done in that zone. So.
Agreed.
We've had
Has the
people
added-
tell us things and never do those things.
They have to jump through hoops for the historic district, and that's such a tight board.
Well, I know, they said you have to jump through hoops, but, we also gave them a gravel parking lot, and.
Yeah, can I still speak? We can't do a gravel parking lot unless the Conway Historic District Commission allows us to. And I don't know if there's any of them here, but I can tell you, I'm not speaking for them, it's not gonna happen. We got a variance, an exception for that one. What I can tell you is we could have drawn a master plan, but I don't like to do, I could have had one in 5 days, I asked, that would have shown you some things that were never gonna happen. I would rather be more transparent than that. I could have shown science buildings and things that, but again, I would rather tell you we don't know exactly because we don't have those properties.
I think it's fair to say that the block that's identified as C is going to be core campus property, is what the
Yes.
long-term plan
I
is.
think we all.
It is. Because if when we build that facility, we eventually need to come together. Otherwise, we got one part down here, one part down here.
Ancillary properties would be further on down by the arena, convocation center, whatever you want to call it. But the C is going to be core campus. It'll be science buildings, it'll be dormitories, it'll be
Something like
whatever
the needs are.
Whatever, yeah,
And
driven by
I don't know of
need.
any college president that can tell you what's going to happen with the students.
Like if.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Then they can start to.
No other public comment. We'll bring the issue back in front of the city council. Other comment?
Again, I have zero problem with what's identified, the whole block of C. That's going to become CBC's core campus, like you said, over time. That's no problem with that. And I can support C 100%. It's, and again, we're only talking about B here. That's the one I have a little more heartburn with because nothing is planned for it yet. And I know, you don't have to have a master plan down to everything you're going to do. But to me, that's getting outside of what we've always thought was CBC's boundary, which could be fine. That's absolutely fine. But before we hodgepodge little parcels of S1, I'd rather have bigger parcels that have a little more concrete back behind them. So I'm fine with C, but I can't support B. So if it's one motion, I'll vote no.
No, that's right.
But no, I do support C, but not yet B.
Could we split it? Is there any way to do that?
Amend the motion.
Amend the motion?
I mean, we could request that of Mr. Kimbrough. Mr. Patrick, is the ordinance we have in front of us, is that everything, or is that limited to just B and C?
B and C is the only thing we're talking about tonight.
I understand, but I'm making sure the language in section 1 of this ordinance we have in front of us is just the properties detailed in sections B and C. And there's not an A in there, or description of A, a description of D, E, F, and G. Because we're passing a specific ordinance with the specific listed streets and lots and et cetera.
You could count the.
Yeah, the ordinance in front of it shows everything,
Okay, I was afraid it might show everything.
because that was the original.
Right.
There's Center Street on here,
Yeah, I mean, because centers.
so that would be about not even being
The center
Center Street's up
is
in
under,
C
yeah.
also.
That may be everything. It may just be.
But if it has Scott, it's for sure out.
Scott wouldn't have been on there, but we made sure that wasn't on there to start with.
Oh, okay.
Page 7, it's page 7 what you're looking for, I'm sorry.
It's just, we're working with the specific ordinance, Mr. Kimbrough.
So
So we could
Could
pass
amend
this
it.
motion for only those things
enclosed in
in B and C, or C for that matter.
C.
But that would be, we would certainly want to do that with the request of, it's their petition to us, so I would say they would have to withdraw it. Would be better, and then we could either,
Could we do it tonight?
I think they could they could limit, they can expand it or change it, but they could take a portion off. We've done that before. Under another city attorney, but we've done that before.
I'm not sure what the ordinance exactly specifies. It could be to see, sorry, I didn't take that.
I tried to count the lots.
Right, and then we have B and C. Yeah, I think that's what the ordinance says right now. It doesn't have all the other terms. It has B and C. But if the city attorney's okay with it, I mean, we will put correct description on the ordinance to go forward.
Yeah, take it.
We've done that in the past where we've allowed a request that you can't add to it, you can always.
Shrink it, as long as it stays the same request, just shrunk.
Right.
Take parcels out of it. Right. What would you like to do, Mr. Kimbrough?
I don't feel inclined to remove
Remove B?
Yeah, I don't. If it's all denied, then so be it.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to severely limit our plans. But if we're going to build, I keep saying if, but I mean, I believe when we're going to build that, we're going to need that. And if there's not enough trust in us based on past experience and track record to do.
You're misinterpreting what I'm saying. It's not the trust issue here. It's not to do with trust at all. And now, Mr. Mayor, this is our ordinance. Can we not amend our ordinance to do C and then have an ordinance to do B separately?
Like two different votes?
That's not really the way we've ever done that. I mean, it is their request, and we don't need to go off on a tangent, rezoning properties or not necessarily, outside of their request.
You know, if there wasn't the layer of protection of the whole we call it, because I read the manual, the old Conway Homeowners District Overlay District. That's what we're in. We're not in the historic district, we're in the overlay. But they still, if there wasn't that layer of protection where they have to come together and say, no, you can't do this. And, you know.
I'm not sure why you wouldn't want to go ahead and take the C tonight, because I think you've got a positive vote on the C tonight.
And come back with
And come
B.
back for the B when you have something concrete that you'd like to talk about. I'm trying to help you out.
Yeah, well, I understand. I mean, I could be as concrete as you want me to and say, when we build that complex, we are going to need some place for buses, for visitors parking. We can put them on the street. We'll end up like everyone else, you know. They'll either tell us not to, and we'll move them around the other side. There has to be a place. There has to be a place. We can go across the street and park on the gravel parking lots over at the Conway Station Park, which are not even adequate. It's not going to work that way. We are severely limited.
I think what the suggestion to you is from the council is that we can buy into, incomplete though the properties are and the possession is, we can buy into the vision of the core campus being bordered by Center and Conway Boulevard and is that Garvin and Bruce Street.
Sure, I understand that.
That's no problem there. I think what David's main concern is there may be a plan and it may be integratable into the portion east of Conway Boulevard. They're just not seeing it right now. And so the suggestion Mr. Hawkins, and Mr. Grimes, and some of the others are perhaps leaning towards is let's get C, remove you the opportunity from having to rezone and re-notify everybody associated with C, get that done. It's a much easier process when you have a more complete game plan with properties B to come back and do it then, rather than come back and do it all, B and C, if this gets denied. I'd say take an easy yes.
Well, I don't.
Just-
With all due respect to you and every council member.
This is just one card player to another.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And I don't play cards, so.
I knew you'd appreciate that analogy.
I'm just going to, you know, I'm not going to remove that. I'm not being obstinate. It's just like, if I come back, it's going to be the same thing. And it's going to take more time, and then we still have to go to the Historic Commission. That's the layer of protection. I don't think that anybody is, unless you've been there, knows they're not going to let it happen without a plan. That's why you rezone it S1. I'm not telling you, but I'm reminding myself. It's why you rezone it S1, then you can do only with their approval. If we weren't in that overlay district, you'd have every reason to say, don't do this, because you can do anything you want to then. I mean, that's what S1 is. But we do have that.
That's not being a good neighbor.
Any other discussion?
Okay, we're fixing to vote.
No other discussion.
And no breaking up of the property.
He would rather not.
That's what I heard him say, I just wanted confirmation of that.
Question. Do we have to vote?
Or not. There's no other discussion, we will vote.
All right.
There's no other discussion. Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
No.
Mr. Hawkins?
No.
Mr. Pruitt?
No.
That passes 5-3. Correct, my count?
5-3.
5-3. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Thank you, Mr. Kimbrough. And everybody who spoke, we appreciate your input.
Thank you.
We are good to go.
And we have a lot of great council meeting left. If
I was gonna say, don't leave yet.
want to stay.
They got
This is-
another 2 hours.
This is really good showing stuff here.
Well, they bust up out of here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. We'll move on to public services. We have consideration to enter into an agreement with Cone Elevator Services for various locations with the City of Conway. Primarily, that involves the 2 sports centers and the elevators there. The police station is with a different service contract. It does include City Hall, and I think Cone was the only elevator service that was willing to mess with our ancient City Hall elevator. The others would not. So we're recommending to enter into this 3-year agreement with Cone Elevator to keep them all serviced and serviceable.
Make a motion that we allow that with Cone.
Motion and second that we allow, that we award this service contract to Cone Elevator for $450 per month for this three-year term. Any discussion? If there is no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? That passes 6-0. The next item is consideration to determine how to proceed with the construction services related to the Conway Event Center. You'll recognize that we moved to go forward with finishing out the event center at the Conway Expo Center, the Fairgrounds building. There was the middle section that was not finished. We're at the stage in the design that we either need to determine whether we're going to bid the project and put it out to bid, go with the construction manager in this possibility. And you have the three options, and they're almost continuation of the existing at-risk contractor, construction manager for the City of Conway. I think the city attorney would like to weigh in on this discussion too. But this is the determination so we could guide us in proceeding with this parks project. Mr. Ibbotson, would you like to speak to this?
Actually, I think Chuck's probably better at talking about what the options are, what legally we can and can't do through those options. Obviously, we have hard bid, which we're all familiar with, and then it's construction. It's not construction manager at risk. It's called
At-risk construction manager.
at-risk construction manager.
Sorry for that fine detail mistake.
I put it down wrong to begin with, sir. And that allows projects of a value of $2 million and above to basically, no?
No, some of the terminology and things were messed up, but basically the way that, okay, so we have a situation where this is basically a major construction project to an existing building. There is, I would say there's only really 2 options. I sent a last-minute email after everybody kind of explaining everything, but basically, what we're looking at here is 229203, any kind of public improvement and how that's awarded is the bid process. And so that's really typically what you look at in a situation like this. It specifically provides for this type of project. It can be taken outside of the normal bid process under another law that provides for projects that exceed $2 million in projected cost.
Okay, so we are in that realm. So I see it as, and that's not the at-risk construction management. That's a completely separate issue that gets into waiving competitive bids in professional services type situation. And this particular situation doesn't, in my opinion, fall under the category or definition of an at-risk or construction management situation. So the way that I see it is we can put it out for bid, the normal bid process, or like what I believe that we did for the Expo Center in the beginning, it's almost like an RFQ process where there's a committee that picks from those, and then we kind of, the subcommittee, or the committee, pre-construction committee, makes a recommendation to the council, I guess is the way it kind of works, and it's all, for the most part, laid out in the statute.
And we used that process originally. That's how we ended up selecting Salter on the project.
Yeah.
Originally.
But we can't continue with Mr. Salter, is what you're saying?
I don't think that we can, as much as we may want to. I don't think it's just a continuation of, this is a kind of a separate project. The monies were not allocated out at the time. I think that there was monies appropriated to build the fairgrounds and the expo center, and then there was always a plan to expand, but the monies weren't set aside at the time. So it's really a separate phase or project that wasn't bid originally.
So now, we could still end up going through this process and selecting Salter, but you have to, what the city attorney's saying, you've got to run it through the process.
And that's,
Either way, with the bid, we can accept or reject
Checked.
any or all bids.
that is correct. You would, so we put it out, we can put it out for bid, and you would, there's specific language that I'd want to make sure that I would get in there. But yes, we have the ability to reject any bids. We can select none of them. So, yeah. And it's not the lowest bidder. I think that was kind of in the memo. It's the lowest responsible bidder, that, you know, the criteria can kind of be set in there for picking the lowest responsible bidder based on several factors. And then, anyway, there is a provision in state law that allows kind of the municipality to almost provide a credit or an incentive, I guess, for local businesses, but we have to have an ordinance that addresses that first of all, and I haven't been able to see if we have that yet.
I will say one of the advantages of continuing with a, however you say, a construction manager at risk situation, is that if we can keep one contractor through whatever process we select one with, then you don't have the finger pointing when it comes down to the problems that inevitably arise because of this not being right or that not being right. If it's two contractors, they point the fingers. If there's one contractor doing both phases, then there's fewer. But the way to integrate those kind of strengths into whoever you select would be in this RFP process and not necessarily a hard bid process. The stronger way to do that, to ensure that you get continuity of contracting, is through an RFP process. So, and that was a pretty strong recommendation coming from the architect.
I think that it's clear that the law just wants to provide a certain process for picking these particular situations. I mean, that's just where we stand for major projects like this. That somebody couldn't.
But really, either way, we could.
Let's yeah, you could, but then you potentially have to throw out 5 bids, or 4 bids, or you know, to get down to the contractor you want. The better process.
The process by which, and again, it's one we've already kind of been through, is the one exceeding $2 million. It's kind of an RFP type process where the committee makes a recommendation to the council on who to go with. And I think you have a little bit more control over the situation and the factors that come into it. It's not strictly just looking at
low price.
Yeah, price is weighted a little more heavy in the bidding process. Even though you're not tied to the lowest bidder in the regular bidding process, it's still weighted heavily.
That's fair. So it's your choice, however you want to proceed.
No.
We just need direction.
Steve will open it up. There's notice requirement.
To make it clean and,
Yeah, just the,
RFQ.
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 RFQ would,
I'll take a motion.
Second.
Motion and second to proceed with the RFQ process.
would some of those qualifications be they had done the rest of the building?
That would be weighted heavily, I'm sure.
Probably not. But it would be a wait.
Yes.
I'm just,
Sir? Any other discussion? No other discussion? All in favor of proceeding with a RFQ at-risk construction manager situation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. The next item is an ordinance authorizing personnel change at the Parks and Recreation Department. Mr. Ibbotson?
Yes, we're requesting a reclassification of grounds maintenance to a grounds maintenance supervisor as part of our continuation to get prepared for the event center. And then our final step will be to come back once the event center's open and ask for a grounds maintenance person.
There's no budget change.
And that would take care of all the personnel, additional personnel that we told y'all that we'd need prior to it opening.
I make a motion to waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second to waive the readings. All in favor of waiving these three readings? And with a two-thirds vote, bringing it forward for action on tonight's agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption. This would be ordinance 01630. Any discussion? If there is no discussion, Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
That passes 8-0. The next item is a consideration to approve an offer and acceptance for property located off of South German Lane. You might have had a hint of a possibility of this a little earlier in the meeting. But this property is located off South German Lane, west of South German Lane, south of Dave Ward Drive. It's two pieces of property, parcel of about 67 acres. That would be considered the Hegel Barber property. Another 29 to 30 acres of what would be the Joyner property located further to the west. It's 97 acres roughly in all. It lies completely south of Dave Ward Drive. And what I've always, said for the last, basically since I've been mayor, if you took a map of the city of Conway and folded it north to south and placed the north city limits on the southern city limits and creased it, the crease would be Dave Ward Drive. Certainly, there's more city and there's more population north of Dave Ward Drive, but in terms of just the logistics of area, Dave Ward Drive is a lot of our growth area. In terms of a lot of it's going to be south of Dave Ward Drive. If you look at the park property south of Dave Ward Drive, right now we have 53 acres that's entirely used for a soccer park way out in the extreme southwest part of the city. You've got, Shelley, I can't remember how many acres we purchased from UCA in the.
10 or
It wasn't 10, it was much smaller than that.
maybe
Less than 5, I
5?
think, yeah.
Yeah, 5 acres.
That we have that's become the trailhead of what's
Stone Dam.
the portion of Stone Dam Creek that is completed, and then 2 acres on top of Civil Defense Hill. And that's it. That's all the acreage we have in the city for parkland south of Dave Ward Drive. This property straddles its entire width of Stone Dam Creek, and has floodway and floodplain, but has high and dry areas beyond that. Obviously, you can develop in the floodplain, you can't develop in the floodway. This is a beautiful little swale of green space. It does have a power line, a small power line through a portion of it, But if we purchase this 97 acres, we would immediately have connectivity through a city easement and this 97 acres between South Donaghy and South German, so we could immediately extend a bike trail, pedestrian trail through there, which connects up with a bike lane on South German that leads all the way out to the southern city limits, Hewlett-Packard and the Meadows Technology Park. So we think it's a great addition to, number one, Green Space Park, because there's certain elements of it that can never be built on, but also adding park amenities to an area that currently is unserved by local parks. I will point out that one of the subdivisions that back up to this stretch of creek property actually has a cul-de-sac that lays on the property line, which means we have public right-of-way access through that property line into this property that allows us neighborhood access to where the trail would come through. So we think it could be a great addition to our inventory of park properties. It could be a location that we could place larger facilities as well as playgrounds and smaller facilities. It's not inconceivable to put a aquatic center there, a community center there, or a tennis facility there if we so choose at some point in the future. If not, it's still great green space property they'll be preserving it for the future. So we suggest to you that we purchase this land. We just need your approval.
And the funding mechanism?
Would be park A&P funds.
Okay.
I sent you a spreadsheet that shows you a feasible way of doing that. You'll notice it did plug in $2 million for a tennis concept. They're not here. We can talk about that in more detail, as well as financing at, in a fairly immediate meeting to make sure. I would suggest we go out for 5-year financing to do a number of things, this included. Certainly, I will show you what I think would be a good plan for Laurel Park. I mean, it's not going to be the complete plan the tennis folks came out with, but I think that space is too limited over there to roll out that full plan. But we can talk about that.
Well, I mean, let me rest that differently. I mean, I'm all for getting this land. I think it's great. It's a great location. We do a lot of things with it. All the other stuff is down the road. But as far as, I mean, if we sign these papers, they're going to probably want money pretty soon. How are we going to immediately fund the purchase of this? 5-year financing?
We have $1.5 million in the bank right now.
We have money in the bank?
We can fund it straight up with cash right now.
Okay, so we have options, including cash on hand, to
Yes.
purchase this.
We have options, but I think we'd be better served by pursuing
Sure,
5-year.
but we have cash on hand.
For other things too, but we have cash on hand, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry to
I think
belabor the
it's-
point.
I think it's a fantastic piece of property as well. I am a little bit leery of the purchase price and how these numbers were arrived at, because I understand there's 100 acres of property and they're not making any more of it in the Conway city limits. But this might be a first cousin to Spirit Homes in that I hadn't seen an estimate on this. I hadn't seen an appraisal.
We have an appraisal. We're basically paying appraised value.
Have I missed that?
Did we send it out? I thought we would have sent
So
it out.
there is an appraisal on the property. Okay.
We have appraisal on the Hegel property.
Has anyone
This
seen
is-
it? I have not seen it.
We have it. The Hegel property has an absolute appraisal on it. That is this price. Okay? We also have a 2007 appraisal of the Joyner property, the portion on the south side of the creek, from the center of the creek to the south property line, at higher than this price, I think. And the Joyner property is at $10,000 an acre, whereas the appraisal shows it at $12,800 something an acre. The better Joyner property is actually on the other side, but we're picking it up for all $10,000 an acre. And the price in the 2007 appraisal for the Joyner property is certainly right there in the neighborhood. I think it's actually a little higher than the current appraisal for the Hegel property. So we think it's absolutely well priced according to appraisals.
I just hadn't seen it.
Well, we can get it. I'm sorry we didn't send it out to you. I thought we did send a. Okay, I thought we had sent it out. in the packet, I apologize. Because we should have clipped the title page and the relevant pages to send that to you, because we have it, and we had it, and actually, you know, it wasn't necessarily, you know, I just didn't get it to you.
Okay.
But we do have an appraisal for that exact price. Your choice.
That we can see, right? Just kidding.
Pardon?
Said that we can see, right? The appraisal.
Yeah, it's in the office. You
I was kidding.
I mean, we've got it. So, and it was supposed to go in this packet.
Right. I believe you, Dave.
I still think we can get this property cheaper.
Make a counter and motion to buy it.
We're not going to buy any property unless we have a motion, one way or the other.
Then I'll make one. Hold on.
He's got some figuring to do.
Got some ciphering.
Do we need extra
Do you wanna-
computer power?
Won't take long. Won't take long. Won't take long.
You're not going to base it on an appraisal yourself?
I'd like to make a counteroffer, is what I would like to do.
Okay.
Is that, I mean,
Without a motion, you can make any motion you want to.
okay. And there's not a motion on there? That's good. Hold on just a second.
You don't have to get an exact, you can just give us a price per acre.
Okay, I'll do that.
I mean, right now, the price per acre is $10,000 on
10,000.
29 acres. It's $12,188 on the,
I'd say we counter at 6,500 an acre on each one of them. On the, hold on, they're different prices. 6,500 an acre for the 67 acre piece, I think.
The joiner?
the 67 acres of Eagle piece.
I don't know. I don't have enough computing power over here right now.
It's- We can do the math. Just tell us what the price is per acre if you want to.
No, I'm sorry, on the Hegel property, 75, and on the Joyner property, 65.
Okay, now, we can do that. I will say on the Joyner property, we have an appraisal at $12,800.
I understand,
Our own appraisal is over $5,000 more per
I
acre.
understand.
Okay.
I'd like to, I would make a
There's a
motion.
motion. Is there a
I would like,
second?
there's a motion. I didn't see anybody lining up to buy it. Why are we gonna overpay for something?
Is there a second?
Let's see if anybody.
Motion and second.
Let's see if they wanna sell the property.
Discussion.
Doing just the Joyner property right now, right?
No.
No,
They both have.
no, I did both of them. I did both
Got
of them.
$7,500 for the Eagle, $6,500 for
75
the
and
for the
65.
Joyner. Any discussion?
Yeah, how long we gonna wait on them to accept them now?
Typically, an appraisal, a offer and acceptance is only good for 24, 48 hours, whatever you want to put on it.
You in a hurry? You in a hurry?
No, I would like to see something built south of Big Boy Drive.
I would too.
Me too.
And I know, I might not know, land out there, but I know $10,000 acre land is not really outrageous. 'Cause I got an acre of land right behind my house, so I can sell for a lot more than that.
But it's not in the floodplain or floodway.
Yes, it is flooded right now.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
I apologize to you. I apologize to you.
He wants the mosquito deal.
Yeah, call him Mosquito Man.
I'll be more than happy to sell it to you.
Surrounding property. That's right.
Any other discussion? I will say, I think this is an absolutely futile effort. I don't think it's anywhere close to the realistic sales price of this property. Now, if we want to go through this exercise, that's up to the council. I think it's a futile exercise.
I understand.
We're just wasting time.
I understand, and point is taken.
Okay.
Point is taken.
Any other discussion? All in favor of this counteroffer, say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
All opposed?
No.
Let's have a roll call, please, Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Pruitt?
Yes.
Ms. Isby? No. Mr. Grimes?
No.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
4-4.
I vote against the counteroffer.
Go ahead with the futile offer then. It's gone.
Sorry, I tipped my hand, I guess.
He votes no.
Okay, so it's back up.
It's back up. Do y'all want to make an offer? You accept this offer at this time?
Oh, you did vote?
Oh, I did vote against it.
Yeah. I make a motion.
Oh, okay. Then there's another, we gotta do another one.
Well, you can make it higher or lower counteroffer.
7
Or
and 8.
anybody can make a motion here. Mr. Hawkins isn't the only one that's.
8,000 and 7,000 then.
Is that a motion?
65, right, rather than 65 and 75.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. What's your numbers now this time, Mr. Hawkins?
I'm sorry,
What's your motion, what's your numbers this time again?
8 and 7, rather than 65 and 75.
The price is right.
I'm happy. Our UCA students are having such a great civics.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a late night one.
8 and 7?
2.5 hours.
Okay.
8 on the 12,000 one and 7 on the other.
Okay. Motion and second. 8 and 7. Discussion.
Think it's still too low?
Yeah.
Mr. Garrett, why don't you cut to the chase and just call it again?
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
No.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Mr. Grimes?
No.
Ms. Mel?
No.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Ooh,
That's,
then I'll wait on y'all.
that's 3 to 5.
I'll make a motion that we do a counteroffer of 11,000 and 9,000, respectively.
Second.
Motion and second for a counteroffer, 11,000 and 9,000.
It was 12 and.
What was the first one? You had so many
12 and
counters.
10.
12 and 10.
The original was 12 and 10.
12 and 10.
11 and 9. Yeah.
Yeah, the original's 12
I don't
and
mind paying
change.
a fair price, and appraised value is fair price. I mean, there may not be people lined up for it, but it doesn't hurt to ask, but
Doesn't hurt to negotiate.
You going 11 now?
11 and 9.
Yeah, he's got a motion and second. Any discussion of that?
No.
Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
No.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Okay, that passes 7 to 1 to make these counteroffers.
I've turned into Mark Vaught and Sandy Brewer.
Vault was here.
He
Spirit.
was.
Okay, we'll make the counteroffers, and we'll go from there. Very good. The next item is an ordinance amending the tire regulations, tire storage regulations for the city of Conway.
What about the,
I'm sorry, I jumped. I have too much scribbling up there with all the votes and other, and motions. Okay, consideration into an easement agreement with Conway Regional regarding the Tucker Creek Bikeway Trail. Remember, this was an agreement we agreed to in principle some time ago before we actually got out there and started constructing the trail. The trail, for the most part, is complete. We're dressing up the final portions of it right now. It's operational. We need to go on and finalize this agreement. It has been put in proper legal format by our city attorney and the attorney for the Conway Regional, Mr. Giles, and it's before you today asking for your approval. The one condition, the concern that Mr. Giles had was if it ever ceases to be a walking trail, that the easement, returns back to the hospital. And I don't know if that's written in there, but that's certainly feasible that we can,
Yeah, he would have to file to close that easement. We can add that in there
Yeah.
if you want to make, but that's not a big deal.
Right.
They'd have to file something either way.
Back to Conway Regional or back to whoever owns that facility? 'Cause if
it's
we're-
successors or assigns, I think is the proper way to say that, yeah. And that's probably the way it needs to say.
I want to know which one of y'all stole.
I make a motion with that condition, or whatever.
And that's actually, there's two agreements here.
There's the easement agreement and the actual easement itself, or the ordinance itself.
So we would need to have a,
We don't have an ordinance.
Well, not the ordinance, but the actual easement and the easement agreement, right?
We just
Just
have
have
a
the
proposal.
proposal.
Well, it should have been emailed out by Felicia.
It says
She did.
agreement will be provided at meeting.
That said it be provided.
Okay.
let's just hold it till next council meeting
I can print out a bunch of copies of it.
at this time.
I can get it done.
Are they pressing for it?
It's built. Be nice to.
Wrap it up, yeah, but it's been built, though.
That's
It's been
what I'm
open for a
saying,
couple of
so,
weeks, yeah. So we can just put it off for 2 weeks.
Hold it.
It's fine. I thought it was sent out, in this final version, it was sent to, but anyway, no big deal.
Yeah. We can print copies right now and have you look at it, and we can deal with it, or you can hold in committee.
Holding committee.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, dear.
Motion and second to hold in committee. All in favor of holding this in committee until we get the documents in front of us, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 7-0. Now, we get to the tire storage ordinance. Okay? Ordinance, we have an ordinance in front of us amending the tire storage regulations for the city of Conway. Obviously, this is in direct relation to a heightened concern about mosquito propagation and breeding in the city of Conway. Mr. Clausen, is this something that you're driving, or who's driving this?
Well, actually, I was going to turn this over to Mr. Jones.
Okay.
I kind of assigned him to this. So basically, this was kind of brought up
Not this
as
Jones,
a
that
need.
Jones.
Excuse me, folks. Let's, yeah, that'd be best.
I'm trying to find out
So
which
this is
Jones you're
actually kind
talking
of
about.
brought up, tire regulation in the state basically is mainly around used tires, or excuse me, new tires are regulated by the state. Used tires aren't as regulated, especially not on the local level. There was a need, it was brought to us by code enforcement. This is also kind of interconnected with the mosquito abatement plan as well. Obviously, tires that are being stored in uncovered locations, obviously are breeding ground for mosquitoes. And so as we kind of got involved in this, it became a lot bigger project than expected, so it took additional resources. I put Mr. Jones on it, and he has drafted a version that's kind of incorporated not only code enforcement, he's got input from local used tire dealers, people in the state levels that are regulating various aspects of this. And one of the other major projects or issues that we're trying to deal with is just illegal dumping of tires in general. I'm sure that everybody's kind of driven as you leave the city, and you can see certain areas. There's one particular location that has thousands of used tires. And there's all different kinds of reasons we learned that they end up out there. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Jones.
I would adopt and incorporate by reference the comments of Mr. Clausen. No, I think he covered it pretty well. There's a couple different things that we looked at, not only the mosquito abatement element of it, but also obviously the discouragement of tire dumping, and aesthetic concerns. I mean, about having stacked up tires in large numbers outside of a business here in town. It does that by requiring used tire dealers to properly dispose of all their used tires, by requiring them to store them in an enclosed structure. That's a major component of it, and we've taken pains to describe what an enclosed structure is for purposes of this ordinance. It requires them to regularly dispose of them on a at least reasonable schedule that keeps the number of used tires down to certain set levels. It also requires them to keep their tires free of stagnant water. Obviously, that's the mosquito abatement component of it. And the heart of it is that it requires these dealers to keep records as far as the tires they take in, the tires they dispose of, the tires they sell, because that record-keeping requirement is what we feel like we can really most effectively police. If they're required to keep these records and those to come through code enforcement, would allow us to determine maybe who's a potential problem as far as the tire dumping and who is not. That's pretty much the gist of it. If you got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions there? This would be an ordinance, would be ordinance 016.
27.
Motion to waive readings.
Second.
27. Motion and second to waive the readings. All in favor of waiving the readings signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. We have the ordinance before us.
Make a motion for adoption.
Motion and second. Discussion?
Since we've been celebrating former aldermen tonight, this reminds me of Adam Weeks. Exposed tires are a pet peeve of his. So Adam will be proud of us tonight for tightening that up.
He's the city attorney in Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, I think.
Really?
Yes, he is.
Was he now district judge? He may
Oh,
be-
is he?
Or circuit judge.
About that.
Yeah, there you go. He got started right here in River City.
I know where I can get in trouble
So
then.
there is life after city council.
Yes.
Well, I will say this, though. I wanted to give, I know this was like a 2-minute discussion, and Mr. Jones got to get up there and say just very little, but this was an extremely extensive project for him. You can be happy to know that you have the most extensive and comprehensive used tire ordinance in the state.
Yes.
Okay? So, just letting you know that, and I appreciate your work, Mr. Jones. I was smart enough to hire him.
Very good.
My contribution.
That's all you, right?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, if I
No other discussion?
No.
Mr. Garrett?
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Jones, Mr. Clausen. We appreciate that. Moving on, we have an ordinance accepting and appropriating grant funds to cover travel for the 9th Judicial District Court's DWI team to travel for the special training. So, Judge, is that you? All right, thanks for waiting here in our
I move to waive the reading.
Second.
motion and second to waive the 3 readings and bring it forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the reading, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Move for adoption.
Passes 8-0. We've got a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
There's a second. Discussion?
Oh, I'll need you to say something.
Me? I just want a vending machine in this building. That's all I'm gonna ask for.
This might be a good atmosphere to get it right now.
Right, yes, that's about the longest discussion we've had back there, is food, so.
Absolutely. Any questions of this? This is primarily an accounting ordinance. The team has sent, this is the 3rd year in a row, 4th year maybe?
Our third year, yes.
3rd year to do this, and so it's a comprehensive, broad base that goes, picks up other folks
Yes,
and
and we're
takes
one of
them on
the
this
first
team.
sobriety, well, not the first, but one of the first sobriety court teams in Arkansas, which I will say, we've got some other organizations, not that y'all care, but I will toot our horn, that now mimic our sobriety court team to, for the other places in Arkansas that are setting it up. So they are using Conway as their example because they are proud of the way we've done it. And that is from the NHTSA grant folks, not these grant folks, but the other grant folks that give us our money. They're using us now as their model, so.
Very good. And this is an accounting ordinance that recognizes the grant as a revenue and then puts it in the
Right.
proper expense account so they can use it for travel out of their
Correct.
budget. Okay? That's all it is. Any other discussion or questions of the judge? Mr. Garrett?
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
That passes 8-0. I think you tipped the balance. It was always in question until you
Yeah.
stepped up there.
It was that vending machine, I'm robbing
Yeah,
them with some
it was
chips.
close, nip and tuck on that vote, yes.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
You're not gonna stay for the rest? We're almost over.
She's trying to find a vending machine.
Yes.
That's all she's looking for.
Has to be 34.
Where'd she live?
All right. Next up is consideration to dispose of various inventory vehicles from the Conway Police Department, a bunch of Crown Vics that have reached the end of their life.
Yes,
True, Major?
Mr. Mayor, they're very old, they're past their end of life. We're trying to get to the point now to where when we start to get the ordinance passed, where we get the new vehicles in, that we can really start getting these hoopties out of here. It's time, it's well past time. We'll put them on, the goal is to get them removed from the city's roster, put them on the public surplus, and see what we can get out of them. We've had varied bids from $500 to $2,500. It depends. Some still run. I wouldn't take a road trip in them, but they're there.
I make a motion, we dispose of these Crown Vics.
Motion and second that we dispose of these Crown Vics. Any discussion?
I wouldn't take a road trip.
If there is no discussion, all in favor of removing these from our inventory listing and disposing of them as according to state law, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0.
We got next is reimbursement overtime. Our officers, when they work overtime, we sign extra duty contracts with the entities that request our assistance. This has been done many times before for various reasons. We got $36,115.03 in extra duty reimbursement coming in, and also some reimbursement from district court for $936 on some court cases that come through. Generally, that covers damage to uniforms during arrest and fights and things of this nature to help cover some of those expenses.
Make a motion, we waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second that we waive the readings. Any discussion? Again, this is primarily an accounting ordinance. Actually,
We're waiving the reading.
waiving the readings, I'm sorry. I had a motion second written down. All in favor of waiving the readings, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption. Discussion? There's no discussion. This will be ordinance 01629. Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
That passes 8-0. The next item is an ordinance waiving bids for the purchase of tasers from Taser International for Conway Police Department. Major Hearn?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The TASER is proprietary. All of our instructors that we have on staff had to get certified through TASER. With the recent additions that we've had to the police department going through the academy right now with the additional officers, we mandate that everyone that is on shift has to carry a TASER. That's just how we do business. Also, we have some of them that cycle into life, have malfunctions, things break. So we have to replace these things. TASER is the best game in town as far as this goes. There are others. I tend to trust their backing, their training. They're willing to stand behind their product in court and things of this nature. So we've been very pleased with what we've been dealing with over the years with them and want to continue with this.
Make a motion, we waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second that we waive the 3 readings and bring this forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the readings, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That passes 8-0, and the ordinance before us will be ordinance
For adoption.
01630. Motion and second has been made. Discussion?
It's already in your budget, isn't it?
Yes.
These are nothing, Mr. Ledbetter knew. We budgeted all this. We try to make all this in advance.
Yeah. But this is just waiving the bids, Mr. Ledbetter. Yeah. If there's no discussion, Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
That passes
When I hear that
8-0.
It's gonna be like 3 or 4 meetings.
The next item is an ordinance waiving bids for the purchase of concealment vests from TICO Safety, again for the Conway Police Department. Major?
The vest we're getting are Tico's, the vendor and representative from Point Blank. We've used them this last year and going to progress further into this year. As our officers get their body armor and their concealed body armor, every 5 years, you have to replace the body armor. That's the industry spec. Also, body armor and technology change. They've upgraded to where their concealable body armor is lighter, but offers a greater degree of protection. We're going to be wearing what they classify as a 3A body armor compared to what we've been wearing as 2A. So that offers a greater level of protection and tries to cut down on some of the weight. Those things get heavy and smelly at times, so we're again trying to evolve with the times. This is normal. We had to increase the amount on this portion because we've had 6 retirements pretty recently on top of the additional personnel. Then you normally throw the 5-year cycle as things progress, so it looks like a lot, but it really is not. You throw the additional officers added on top of the recent retirements where we've had to hire 6, and then the normal cycle of the 5-year, because it's hit or miss what year, how many you get fluctuating in and out.
I make a motion to waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second to waive the 3 readings, bring it forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the readings, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes
Make a motion for adoption.
8-0. Motion and second for adoption. Discussion?
Is there any specific reason that we need to buy them in-state, just besides the fact that that Tico's in-state? Is there like a...
The reason we buy them in phases, as far as you're talking about every 5 years?
Well, I'm just asking you because we're waiving bids, and it just specifically says Tico's the only one that sells that concealment vest in-state.
From talking to the accounting personnel I've been dealing with, this year was a pretty higher year going through, and we got over a certain dollar amount when we had to do a lot of replacements of body armor. And I was informed we had to go through this portion on this because we'd been using them up to, I think it was 20,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor. And then, once, since this is going over that, and we're want to stay with this vendor and the level and type body armor they're offering us that the others have not been offering us, the cost was going to be about $60 a vest higher than what we were paying on the 2As versus the 3As. We're getting better protection for $60 per vest.
Okay.
Versus what the other industry
I wasn't really talking about specific, I don't know if I'm saying this right. I wasn't talking about specific vests.
Well, what they're saying is, why are we waiving bids?
Yeah, I mean, is there something, because it looks like we're buying bulk.
Is there
44
another,
of
is
them.
there another vendor that will give us the same vest, is what you're saying?
Right, like that's out of state that we might be able to get a discount on, for the same vest. I mean, that's the only, I mean, I'm not asking about the specs of the vest. I know nothing about those, and I would never pretend to. But, if it looks like we're buying a large amount and, it just seems like we would get bids on it.
That's his question. Why are we waiving bids? Yeah.
The the portion that we were looking at is this manufacturer is producing the 3A vest that is concealable, that is as far as lightweight, that some of the other manufacturers are not there right now.
Okay.
That's
So no
why
one
we're
else,
doing it.
no one else but Tico's sells this vest?
Sells, yeah, to the specs that we're seeing and we're getting, and the specifications we're wanting at that 3A, and the weight of the vest itself, that's what we're after.
So Tico is the manufacturer.
Well, Point Blank is Point Blank is the manufacturer.
Tico is
Tico is their authorized vendor.
So the manufacturer's not Arkansas, the vendor is?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. So it's not like we've got the corner on the market of the best vest in the world right here in
Right,
Arkansas.
yeah,
It's
I
not,
got
it's
that.
not that, yeah.
Right, no, I have, again, like I said, I have no idea. I was just wondering if anyone else sold it and why we weren't going out for bids if they did. So, but he told me that it's proprietary, so I
Very good.
accept that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to go around about that way.
Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Isby? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
That passes 8-0. One item, I'm going to go back and double check. You don't want to go on and deal with this. Mr. Clausen's told me that he has made sure you all have been sent the easement agreement. It's actually 2 agreements. One's a broader agreement that discusses other things, and one's a specific easement agreement that deals only with the easement. It's better to have two separate documents.
Specifically, you've got the pathway easement, and then there's a pathway easement agreement. And because of some of the terms that were negotiated and agreed upon earlier, just required some, required us to carry out some initiatives and things like that, and make sure that we took care of that during the term of the easement. I thought having an agreement which really defined and went into detail into those terms would be better than just kind of cramming it all in the actual easement that's going to be filed. Does that make sense?
That's right. So it's basically everything we said initially and that you approved in concept. It's just, this is the official documents that will execute that.
And Felicia did send us something yesterday.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Do you want to go on and deal with it now? Approve it? Do you want to wait 2 weeks?
I can tell you that basically the documents are, the form that is required, and I incorporated, like I said, all the terms of the initial agreement, and then just added in legal descriptions and some legalese that it is, technically done. So
You're good with it?
I'm good with it.
Let's do it tonight.
The only modification I would say is add that one term that if it's not ever used for the specified purpose of the easement, that the easement would then extinguish. That's what Mr. Giles wanted.
I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the new proposals.
Motion and second to approve the pathway easement agreement and the pathway easement. Discussion?
Question, this is coming off of our pathway to Conway Regional's
Yes.
facility?
Yeah.
That's correct. It's the southeasternmost corner of the southeastern parking lot, but it connects from that particular parking lot and provides a walkway to the Tucker Creek Trail. It's actually already been constructed. It's there. It looks really good.
There's probably not a more used path, I would assume, honestly.
One thing, Chuck, I'm trying, excuse me. Mr. Lawson.
Yeah. Hang on a second. Answer, Mr.
We're paying them for the property so we can build a trail.
So we can use their parking lot.
And use their parking lot.
And,
Because-
and pay to keep their parking lot updated.
Yes, we would,
Correct.
$25,000 every 7 years.
up to,
Up to.
yeah,
That's
if
the
needed.
agreement.
Yeah,
Yes.
we also added in a provision that basically allows us to do the work ourselves if we feel like we can save cost. I mean, it's every 7 years up to 25,000 would be our portion. If we were to, for instance, if we were to do it ourselves and it cost 50, they would.
Y'all have to agree on that expense.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And it's what you agreed to in spirit already. I mean, you actually had a document you were looking at that spelled all this out. It just wasn't in the more proper legal form yet. And that's why we went ahead and proceeded in good faith to build the property. But that will be, that southeastern parking lot of the current fitness center will be publicly accessible. You don't have to be a member of the fitness center to go in there and park and use the bike trail. So it becomes a public parking lot in essence. We got it pretty cheap, it sounds like.
I'd be happy to read that specific provision, but it does start out with subject to city council approval. Any expenditure, but the maximum that would be expected is up to 25,000 for a 7-year period.
Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That passes 8-0. Both of those easements and agreements being approved. The next item is an ordinance authorizing the reclassification of a vacant position in the administration department. This would be creating from a vacant special inspector position, a deputy mayor for policy and public affairs position. In essence, what I'm suggesting to you is when we get into a transition for the next mayor and the next mayor's office, we're going to have, whoever the new mayor is going to be swamped their first few months, if not 6 months, with public relation duties. Not administration duties, not operations and all of that duties, public relation duties, because that happened to me. When I came into office, I was swamped with phone calls and visitors to the office. I basically was dealing with the public because they wanted to talk to the new mayor. After 12 years of the old guy that didn't get them what they wanted, they wanted to deal with the new guy, and maybe he'll get, what I want, and they came to see me in person. They didn't vote for anybody else, they voted for me. So I was absolutely swamped. But in 1999, there were 2 funds for the City of Conway. We had a general fund and a street fund. We have 13 funds now that we deal with. We have a lot of new rules and regulations, and there's a lot of administration that goes on that any new mayor, whether it's any of the guys that are all running for it, is going to need a lot of administrative help that have institutional memory. What I'm suggesting here is let's flop this special inspector's position that's unfilled right now, convert it into a position that we can go on and get somebody in there that's certainly at risk and can be replaced, as anybody can with a new administration, but gives the opportunity for someone to be in place and has 9 months' worth of experience learning the ropes, so that between Chief of Staff Jack Bell, this position, and I think Mr. Bell will stay a little bit longer. My executive assistant stays as long as she wishes and no more. And that may be even the most critical position, if we ask Mr. Bell and I. This gives us some people to continue on the operations of the city, administratively, to do the governance of the city, to handle all the different project requests, departmental requests and things, and lets the mayor handle a lot of public relations. That's going to happen regardless. We don't have enough hands to cover the deck currently in the way it's set up. This is trying to get in advance of that to some degree. So I'm going to make this suggestion with an existing budget. This will not really affect the budget except that little bit you see right there, $2,689.21.
What happens if we need another inspector at some point? Will this revert back to that?
We could at some point. We think we have plenty of building inspectors. If anything, we don't have enough code enforcement inspectors. We may want to see more movement over to code enforcement away from building. We don't seem to have nearly as much building now as we did 5 or 6 years ago, and 5 or 6 years ago we had less than half the number of inspectors we currently have. So I think we're covered on that. If there's special inspection duties that we need to cover, I think we can drop down somebody from building inspection.
And Jack doesn't want to move in that role or anything?
This position will not pay as much as that position, so I don't think Jack will.
Why are we doing it this early, and how do we know that the next mayor wants this?
We may not, but it's going to give him the opportunity to have it already in place with somebody.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
in place.
why would we be paying someone now to assist the new mayor?
When that might not be what not necessarily.
It may not.
To your point, that might not be what the next mayor wants.
Plus, what could they be doing now if we don't have the new mayor?
There's plenty to do, but there's even more to learn.
I mean, yeah, but
But why learn it if they are not
yeah.
gonna continue to
Yeah.
serve, if that's not what the new mayor
Yeah.
wants?
It's an opportunity.
Well, and I had asked, and Lisa sent me the job description for this one and for the chief of staff, and there's a lot of similarities and overlap in those 2 positions.
Absolutely. It was because I wrote.
Similarities from what I could.
From Jack's job?
Jack's job and this one.
I wrote that one for that reason, to show you that we need additional hands to do a lot of responsibilities. This job would answer to the eventual mayor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Continuity of operations, basically.
That could be the chief of staff,
That's what I'm saying, that's,
That I'm
continuity.
yeah, he knows so much.
just telling you that we are going to need warm bodies in the office. We could have used them previously. We've never really had the resources to do that. I think we'd be better served getting somebody in and trained to cover gaps.
And I see that point. It makes sense. And if the new mayor decides he doesn't want that position, the new mayor can get rid of
Okay,
it.
if the mayor gets sick, is this person filling in for the mayor? Or?
No, the chief of staff would be second in command. Now, this person would answer to the mayor. But the chief of staff, I've still always envisioned, if something happened to me, that I'm incapacitated between now and the end of the year, I would assume
Jack would fill
Jack
that
would
role.
assume the reins of the operation. Of course, that's up to y'all, but that's who I'd recommend because of his institutional memory.
I just want to make sure the deputy mayor, I mean, like, you know, you almost feel like that title should be elected and not appointed.
That's
know.
not allowed
Or
state
be
law.
more like a department head or just a director position, not a deputy mayor.
I mean, could we look at?
Because the department head is in charge of a department. There's no department out there at the vacancy. So you would have to create some title, call it what you want to.
Yeah.
Bring some of these.
I don't know,
Assistant
I
mayor.
guess in looking at the two positions, it looked like there could be some confusion as to who's supposed to be doing what.
There is going to be assigned duties that you're not going to say that only, this has to be yours, you do it. This has to be mine and I
Well,
do it.
but like it had media, both of them are supposed to deal with media.
This will be the primary media person.
Okay, so Jack's
Jack doesn't deal with media unless they,
role changes. Well, that's on his job description.
Yeah,
it's
he
not,
does
that's
PR,
not what
I
he
know.
Jack actually does.
Oh.
And we don't have anybody that really focuses on media. Will be a primary function of this position, certainly. To
And
help
you were saying
coordinate.
though, whenever, if something happened to you, Jack would be the one running the show, right?
Yes, I would recommend
So
that.
he would be the PR person.
No, I wouldn't recommend that at all. That's not his bailiwick. That's not what he's good at. Nothing personal to Jack, but he doesn't manage communications. There are people that specialize with that. Christina Munoz does it for UCA. There are people that specialized in that. That's right.
When, will this job be advertised, Lisa?
Yes.
I would strongly suggest that we put in here that this could well be a temporary job.
It will be.
It could be it could be
But we'll point
a
out
temporary job.
But so is Mr. Bell's.
No, I understand,
And so is
yeah.
Felicia's.
Yeah.
It's a political job,
Yeah.
yes.
Every
Yeah.
department head.
Every department head's.
Yeah.
For that matter.
Political job.
I know, but all the mayors that are running, they all work for the city, I mean, they've all worked for the city in capacity. I would think that they're surely up to speed on policies and all that for the mayor's office, I would think.
They don't have a clue what's coming, I'll be honest with you. Mr. Bell, you served on city council for 24 years.
Yes, sir.
You don't know either.
Were you fully prepared?
Absolutely not.
But
There's a lot more behind the scenes that you don't see.
I guess I don't think they're gonna be brought up to speed by January if it's somebody that's just.
Not fully, no.
It takes 24 years and he's.
Ask Sheila, I wasn't up to speed for a lot longer than 9 months.
Nope.
Well, I think you did pretty good, so I think that.
You weren't
It was
there
a lot of
my first term in
winging,
office.
but-
It was a struggle.
I was alive.
Andy was there, and there was a lot of things that were my fault.
So basically, I guess what you visualize in this position is putting this position up to be advertised. Whomever applying for it, you would be responsible for interviewing this person. This person then for the next 7, 6, however long it takes to get this person, would basically be brushed up on all of the policies, things of that nature for the city.
General operations, yeah, they will be brought on board, they'll be assigned duties, they'll be dealing with, people that call in that have problems. They'll run the gamut of things, that if I'm not there and can't deal with it, or I'm busy somewhere else, or Mr. Bell's tied up with something else too, they can help handle the projects. But bringing them up to speed, so they're a valuable asset and contributing part of the office for when you have a new mayor and you need more hands on deck.
That's the only question I got. we might get somebody and train them in there to help the new mayor, and the new mayor will get in there and say, we don't want him.
That's what I'm saying. You might do that, that's right. But the position,
For several months, though.
the position's still there. And the position's still there, and you can take it out,
They gotta do the same thing all over again.
then you can start them all over again. But at least they have somebody who they could choose to keep, who is more trained and ready to step in on a full-time basis and plug gaps.
But are we being presumptuous about what the next mayor's gonna want?
Everything about this, I'm gonna create the budget for the next mayor to
Right.
work with. So there is an element of presumption involved in city continuation of affairs.
This is structurally kind of a major change in the mayor's office, for which we know we're gonna get a new elected mayor. Right? I mean, it is.
I'd be worried about what candidates we can get if they're kind of, if it's not a secured, I mean, I guess nothing's really secure.
Well,
all the department heads, but still.
These points are valid, but to me, it's just more administrative help in the mayor's office, which the mayor states is a busy, busy place. And I would imagine that probably can use all the help you can get. I mean, the new mayor probably will too. If the new mayor wants somebody else, he can get somebody else. If the mayor doesn't want to fill it, doesn't have to fill it.
Or wants to put it back to code enforcement, they can do
Anything
that.
and they'll bring it back to y'all. In the end, it's up to y'all. It's in the budget except for this $2,600.
Is that supposed to be the difference between the 60 and the 56?
Yeah.
Because it's not.
It is for the amount of time that's left. This position will be open as of the 18th, next Monday. The old position went unfilled as of a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's the gap in funding, the cost expected for their, not only the salary, but the labor burden on top of the salary.
So it includes
minus
benefits.
the time that the position's not filled.
So it includes benefits.
Includes benefits, but also it deducts the time that's not been filled, yeah. That's why the math doesn't quite add up on there.
I move we waive the reading of the ordinance.
Second.
Motion and second to waive the reading of the ordinance. All in favor of waiving the reading of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. This will be ordinance 01632.
I'll move for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption. Discussion?
The only thing I would like to, I guess, see, Mayor, with the advertisement of this position is specifically temporary, because in my mind, that's very well what
It
this
very well could
position.
be. I agree. Let's make that
I
very
would not
clear.
want anybody to take this position under the assumption that this is a position that they're gonna have, benefits, all of that of this nature, because it could change very quickly in 7 months.
Or what happens if, yeah, the new mayor, or gets another person and then they don't want to vote.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I definitely understand having someone there that would be able to bridge that gap, and I see that. But again, I don't want anyone to feel misled by us filling this position in any way, that this is a permanent position. Yes, yes.
We will do
yes.
that. That's the only fair way to bring somebody on board.
Good.
Yeah, that's no question. To do otherwise is to mislead them.
Right.
I can agree with that. Any other discussion? Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Smith?
yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
No.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Pruitt?
No.
That passes 5-3. The next item is an ordinance appropriating funds for civil service expenses for promotional testing for fire and police. You'll remember that we never know exactly what our needs are in terms of civil service testing. We always know we have to do it, so we were going to do it regardless of what our budget says. But we don't take up place in the budget for something that we don't necessarily need, so we typically run these budget ordinances for civil service testing as we need them. So that's what this is. It's an accounting ordinance, but it does pull money out of fund balance and put it into the civil service testing account so that we can conduct these civil service tests. Ms. Mabry Williams?
We have already given a entry-level police officer examination, and we have bills that we need to pay. We've already scheduled a promotional fighter test for week after next, and we're gonna have some invoices we need to pay on that also. This will be just for those two tests. I'm gonna have additional funding, probably around this much again, when we give the entry-level firefighter test in June. So I'll be back again after that test when I have all the numbers.
Very good. Any questions of Ms. Mabry Williams?
Second.
Motion and second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor of waiving the 3 readings signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes 8-0. Motion and second to adopt. This would be ordinance O-1633. Discussion? If there is no discussion, Mr. Garrett?
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes? Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt? Mr. Hawker?
Yes.
That passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Seems like we've left something out. Did we get everything covered tonight?
Move for adjournment.
I think we can add a couple more.
Let's sit and think about that a moment, yeah.
There's gotta be something else we can talk about.
Okay.
15
Motion
more
and second.
minutes,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That passes.
Merry Christmas to you.
Not these